Chapter 1822. Yuanning's clone gave Tang Jing a strange smile and flew straight toward the black hole. Tang Jing wanted to remove the sky-swallowing technique, but it was too late. With a flash, Yuanning's clone disappeared into the black hole and appeared in the heaven realm. The omnipotent god looked at this scene in a daze, not understanding what was going on. The heavenly Tao exclaimed, "What is he doing?" Whoosh! The suction force of the black hole suddenly increased, and the heavenly Tao's power of faith poured into the black hole like a flood and disappeared. This abnormality made the heavenly Tao feel alarmed. Tang Jing sighed. How could he not understand the clone's intention? He and Yuanning's clone could not directly absorb the power of faith. When the power of faith was sucked into the black hole and integrated into the heaven realm, the situation changed slightly. Everything in the heavenly Tao could be used by Tang Jing and Yuanning's clone. Even the power of faith was no exception. Yuanning's clone could not wait to enter the heaven realm so that he could take the power of faith for himself. This had been confirmed. In the heaven realm, Yuanning's clone stood on the top of the tree of life. He opened his arms and roared at the power of faith circling in the air, opening his mouth. Whoosh! The power of faith flowed down like a waterfall and fell into his mouth. Tang Jing could not stop all of this. He could control everything in the heaven realm. Similarly, Yuanning's clone could do the same. Moreover, Yuanning's clone was in the heaven realm. He was close to the water, so his control of the heaven realm was slightly better than his. Therefore, no one could stop him from absorbing the power of faith. Ha ha ha. The power of faith is indeed extraordinary. Yuanning's clone soared into the sky and soared above the 9 heavens. He was like wind and lightning, majestic and majestic. There was a subtle change in his aura. Tang Jing stared at him with a burning gaze and then observed himself. However, there was no change at all. His eyes dimmed and gradually understood. Yuanning's clone had done so much. His purpose was obvious. In the past, there was no difference between him and Tang Jing. Their cultivation levels and strength were the same, and even their mystiques were the same. But from this moment onwards, there was a difference between them. Yuanning's doppelganger had the power of faith, but Tang Jing did not. This was the dividing line between the two of them. In the long run, the difference between the two of them would only grow bigger and bigger. This was the true intention of Yuanning's doppelganger. He was unwilling to submit to others. A strong sense of crisis arose spontaneously. Tang Jing had to admit that he had greatly underestimated Yuanning's doppelganger. The clone had its own consciousness and naturally rebelled against the real body. He glanced at the omnipotent God. This was similar to the omnipotent God and the heavenly axiom. The omnipotent God was the incarnation of the heavenly axiom, but once he had his own independent consciousness, he would not be left out. Tang Jing and the heavenly Tao could not escape this. Yuanning's doppelganger sensed Tang Jing's thoughts and advised, "Don't be afraid. I've become stronger. This is a good thing. After all, we're all one. I won't harm you." Tang Jing's heart skipped a beat. He could not believe these words. Yuanning's doppelganger had put in a lot of effort and schemes. Perhaps he would not do anything to Tang Jing now, but in the future, if Tang Jing blocked his path, would Yuanning's doppelganger make a move? Tang Jing was not completely confident. "Tang Jing, you still haven't answered me. What exactly is he doing?" The heavenly Tao asked angrily. Tang Jing glanced at the heavenly Tao indifferently and said, "You've calculated everything, but you've miscalculated one thing." "What?" "Nothing is absolute. Your power of faith is not that safe." He can take your power of faith for his own use." Tang Jing's voice was not loud, but to the heavenly Tao and the omnipotent God, it was like a bolt from the blue. They cried out in unison, "Impossible." The omnipotent God's expression suddenly changed. The heavenly Tao did not have a physical body and could not see his face, but one could imagine the raging waves in his heart. The heavenly Tao's voice became low as he asked, "How did he do it?" Tang Jing pointed at the black hole and said, after your power of faith enters the black hole, everything has nothing to do with you. In the dark, subtle changes have occurred, and he can take the power of faith for himself. So that's how it is. The heavenly Tao seemed to be gnashing his teeth. Back then, the God race was unable to take the power of faith for themselves, but you did it. This is too inconceivable. The omnipotent God sighed in amazement and seemed to be very afraid. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank as he asked, "Is that so?" It seems that the God race is not omnipotent. What I can do, they can't do. Tang Zheng did not revere and worship the God race as much as the heavenly Tao. From the looks of it, the God race was not omnipotent. At most, they were more powerful. The heavenly Tao was silent for a long time before hitting the nail on the head and saying, "Tang Zheng, raising a tiger is inviting calamity. In the long river of history, I have seen too many of these things. I have to remind you." Tang Zheng's face was expressionless, but waves had already risen in his heart. He pretended to be calm and said, "Heavenly Tao, you don't have to sow discord. The matter between him and me will be settled between us. Now, let's settle the matter between us." It was because of the uncertain factor of Yuan Ying's doppelganger that Tang Zheng wanted to cut the Gordian knot and solve the problem of the heavenly Tao. Then, he could deal with Yuan Ying's doppelganger. The heavenly Tao snorted angrily and said, "You are stubborn and refuse to give up." Tang Zheng laughed and said, "When have you ever given up? You have harmed me time and time again and almost caused this world to be destroyed in the hands of Hao Tianwang. Not only me, but you are the enemy of the entire world. I am only seeking justice for you on behalf of others." The heavenly Tao said disdainfully, "Humans are like ants. They are just a race that lives in this world. How can they be worthy of seeking justice from me? In the long river of history, it would be easy for me to destroy this race if I wanted to." Tang Zheng's expression turned cold and said, "If you look down on humans so much, then why do you still need to use them to absorb the power of faith? That's the last of their value." Tang Zheng shook his head and said, "Heavenly Tao, you look down on humans, but let me tell you, I am also a human. You have already broken away from them. To be precise, you are no longer a pure human." The heavenly Tao corrected. Tang Zheng said stubbornly, "No, at any time, no matter what realm I am in, no matter where I go, I am still a human. This is my root. I decided from the moment I was born and will never change. You are stubborn and have completely abandoned yourself. I am willing. If you choose to be with ants, then you are also ants." The heavenly Tao flew into a rage and roared, causing a gust of wind to blow in the air. Rumble. The training hall actually flew up and the huge mountain peak kept shrinking. "What are you doing?" the omnipotent God exclaimed. The heavenly Tao said with killing intent, "Of course I am killing him. Omnipotent God, you are my incarnation. Do you really think that with your own consciousness and some tricks, you can escape from my five-finger mountain? I am not Tang Zheng. I am not that stupid." Bang! Chapter 1823. The mountain peak turned into a giant seal, and with a flash of light, the two words "heaven suppressing" appeared on the seal. "You have destroyed my temple." Universal God was pained as he beat his chest. Tian Dao sneered, "So what? Not only will I destroy your temple, I will also take you in." The heaven-suppressing seal fell from the sky, not towards Tang Zheng, but towards Universal God. Universal God screamed and used all his skills in an attempt to stop it. Pung! The heaven-suppressing seal landed on Universal God's hands, and with a loud explosion, his arms were blown to pieces. Universal God screamed, "Tian Dao, what are you doing? You are my incarnation, I can let you out, but I can also take you back." Tian Dao said calmly. The omnipotent God was shocked. He had a bad premonition and begged, "Don't." Too late. With a loud boom, the heaven-suppressing seal landed on Universal God's body, and he had no way to resist at all. The two words on the heaven-suppressing seal flickered, and seemed to have gained a bit of spirituality. Tang Zheng's expression changed as he saw through the clues. You took Universal God into the heaven-suppressing seal, and raised its grade, right? Good eye. You have the hidden sword, and I have the heaven-suppressing seal. We are both saint weapons. Do you think we still have a chance of winning? Tian Dao asked proudly. Tang Zheng did not comment. Whether we have a chance of winning or not, we will see soon. Swoosh. The hidden sword flew out, and Tang Zheng disappeared, becoming one with the sword. Whoosh. The heaven-suppressing seal flew towards the hidden sword. It was not big, but the terrifying power it gathered was chilling, as if the sky was falling down. Pung. The two swords and seals clashed, and sparks flew everywhere. No one was at an advantage. The hidden sword was like the wind and lightning, and as fast as lightning, it turned back and left marks on the heaven-suppressing seal. The heaven-suppressing seal trembled slightly, and suddenly changed direction, smashing onto the hidden sword. The hidden sword bent into a huge arc, as if it was about to break. Wang. The hidden mystic sword deflected the seal of heaven suppression away. Tang Zheng's figure appeared. He held the hidden sword in his hand and stared at the heaven-suppressing seal like a tiger watching its prey. He said, Heavenly Tao, although you don't have a physical body, I know you can take human form. Why don't you show yourself openly? Who do you want me to become? Whoosh. The air fluctuated, and Fang Shishir appeared in front of him. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched as he bellowed, change back. You're not allowed to taint Shishir. Ha ha ha, you've reminded me. You have so many important people. If I turn into them one by one, can you still bear to kill them? As he spoke, whoosh whoosh whoosh, the surrounding air began to tremble. Familiar faces appeared one after another. Yi Dingdang, Lu Qingmei, Mu Hongyan, Wu He, and Li Xiaotian all looked at Tang Zheng with smiles on their beautiful faces. Tang Zheng was furious as he roared, Heavenly Tao, you're digging your own grave. Then you'll have to pass this first. Heavenly Tao was not afraid at all. His voice stopped abruptly, and then, a familiar voice came out from everyone's mouth. Tang Zheng, don't hurt me. Don't look at me like that. It's so scary. One by one, they begged pitifully, but they approached Tang Zheng step by step and reached out to grab him. Tang Zheng did not move as he watched them approach. Looking at the familiar faces and voices, his heartstrings trembled a few times. Seeing that they were within reach, Tang Zheng's eyes flashed and he attacked like lightning. Bang bang bang. Palm after palm hit their bodies, all of them exploded and turned into a chaotic flow. They did not even have time to scream. Tang Zheng snorted and said, Heavenly Tao, you think you can disturb my mind by changing their appearance? You're wrong. You can only change their appearance, but you don't have any of their charm. You're not them at all. How can you disturb my mind? Amazing, amazing. Heavenly Tao sighed and changed the topic, but so what? Once I kill you, none of the people around you will be able to escape. All of them will accompany you. Tang Zheng was unmoved and said with killing intent, then I have to destroy you even more. Whoosh. Tang Zheng firmly locked onto Heavenly Tao. The hidden profound sword was aimed at him and stabbed over. The heaven-suppressing seal was extremely fast and blocked the hidden profound sword. Both sides fought more and more fiercely, but no one could do anything to the other. The sky gradually became bright. The earth-shattering battle had long alarmed the crowd. Mortals only dared to watch from afar as the morning sun shone on them. The complicated expressions on their faces could be seen clearly. Ha ha ha, Tang Zheng, didn't you claim to be the savior of the world? Then I'll fulfill your wish once more. Heavenly Tao laughed. Boom. With a loud sound, the heaven-suppressing seal flew towards the crowd. Before it even got close, the ground had already collapsed, unable to withstand the terrifying power of the heaven-suppressing seal. The crowd screamed and ran in all directions, but there was no way to escape the attack range of the heaven-suppressing seal. Tang Zheng turned pale with fright. The Heavenly Tao was too cunning. It actually attacked innocent humans. Shameless. Tang Zheng roared. The hidden profound sword flew out and turned into a ray of light. Rays of sword light intertwined and formed a sword net above everyone's head. Boom! The heaven-suppressing seal hit the sword net and the sword net broke into pieces. The hidden profound sword bitterly held on and did not retreat even half a step. The heaven-suppressing seal closed in, causing the hidden profound sword to suffer. Tang Jing also did not have it easy as his face became pale. Ha ha ha, this is the taste of being the savior of the world. I really don't know what you're thinking. They're just a group of mortals. It's fine to use them, but you're willing to sacrifice yourself to save them? What's the point? Heavenly Tao mocked. I'm a human. I, Tang Jing, naturally have to save my people. Tang Jing clenched his teeth and retorted. His voice was like thunder, exploding in everyone's ears and imprinting in their hearts. It's him. The savior. The crowd was freed from the heaven-suppressing seal, but they did not escape immediately. Instead, they screamed in realization and pointed at Tang Jing. Although a period of time had passed since the end of the world, and Tang Jing was fighting fiercely with Heavenly King Hao in the ninth heaven, most people would not be able to see it clearly. However, at some point in time, the name of the person who turned the tide had spread. People called him the savior, but they had not seen him in person. Now, they finally knew that the blurry young man in mid-air was the savior. They were both surprised and happy. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone knelt down and kowtowed to Tang Jing. They did not care about the crisis in front of them. Long live the savior. People shouted loudly and sincerely. Huh, what a bunch of ignorant ants. Death is at hand and you're still kowtowing. Heavenly Tao snorted and said disdainfully. Tang Jing was burning with anxiety. He kept waving his hand and shouted, "You guys leave quickly. It's dangerous here. I'll deal with Heavenly Tao." The savior does not care about his own danger and bravely fights a strong enemy. It's admirable. People's hearts surged with stormy waves as they firmly remembered Tang Jing's vague appearance. Which god in the world is more efficacious than the savior? He is really protecting us. This is something that can be seen and touched. It's not something that those illusory gods can compare to. When I go back, I'll build a golden body for the savior and worship him in the cultivation field. Chapter 1824. In the end, Tang Jing withstood the pressure of the heavenly Tao and gave the innocent people a chance to escape. However, people turned back 3 times with every step they took, deeply imprinting Tang Jing's figure in their minds. From then on, all over the country, dojos related to the savior Tang Jing sprang up like bamboo shoots after the rain. Of course, this is a story for later, so it won't be mentioned for now. In order to avoid hurting the innocent, Tang Jing forced the heavenly Tao step by step to a deserted place. Both sides chased each other and actually headed towards the great northwest. In the distance, a towering tree that towered into the sky came into view. The Tree of Life. Both sides were very familiar with it. Before the heavenly Tao could react, Yuanning's clone had already shouted in the heaven realm. Don't you want to completely defeat the heavenly Tao? The Tree of Life is the key to victory. What do you mean? Simple. The Tree of Life can only be encountered by chance. If you absorb the energy of this Tree of Life into the heaven realm, once the heaven realm becomes stronger, it will definitely be beneficial to you. You will be able to defeat the heavenly Tao. Yuanning's clone said patiently. However, Tang Jing was more cautious and asked, the Tree of Life is related to the human world. It is the symbol of the big world. Once I absorb the energy of the Tree of Life, won't the human world be finished? For the time being, the human world will definitely be fine. Even if it is a small world, it will not immediately explode and disappear. Yuanning's clone explained. Tang Jing did not believe it and said, I will not risk the lives of so many people. Don't you want to defeat the heavenly Tao? Other than that, do you have a second way? Tang Jing was silent. He really had no other way. Believe me. You and I are one. Why would I harm you? Once the two trees of life merge, the heaven realm will undergo earth-shattering changes. Then, it will become a different scene. That will be a real mature world, not this embryonic form. Yuan Ying's clone was very excited and persistently persuaded. A mature world, what is that? Tang Zheng's heart moved. He knew nothing about this, but Yuan Ying's clone knew more about the heaven realm. Of course it's the same world as the human world. No, it's a world that's better and more advanced than the human realm. Yuan Ying's doppelganger vowed solemnly and was filled with yearning. Tang Zheng immediately understood and said, "You mean a world where humans can live?" Of course, not only humans, all creatures can live there. That will be a flourishing world. Moreover, entering and exiting the heaven realm doesn't have to risk your life. We can completely control your life and death. We are the rulers of the heaven realm, the gods of the heaven realm. As long as you enter, you must listen to our orders. Yuan Ying's clone's words were very tempting and provocative. Tang Zheng heard the hidden meaning behind the words, and his heart thumped. He suddenly realized a problem. Wasn't this also the case when the world was first created? Humans were dominated, and the gods were high and mighty. They were the rulers and the objects of worship of the humans. Back then, the humans were so similar to the heaven realm. Could it be that humans were accidentally created by the Protoss, just like the heavenly realm? Then, step by step, they created all living things and humans, and then played the game of raising humans, and humans were equivalent to their pets or prey in captivity. Hiss. Tang Zheng sucked in a breath of cold air. His mind was unsettled, and he was completely shocked by his own guess. If that was really the case, then the origin of humans had been found. However, it wasn't that wonderful. Humans could also be pets, just like the cats and dogs of today. Don't let your imagination run wild. So what if the truth is like this? We have already broken away from the identity of humans. We can also dominate others, be the high and mighty gods, and be worshipped by others. Yuan Ying's doppelganger said unceasingly. His words showed that he was yearning for this. Nonsense. Tang Zheng reprimanded loudly. Yuan Ying's doppelganger's face was flushed red. He said, "Although the heavenly Tao is an enemy, I agree with his point of view. We are so powerful, so why should we be limited to this world and our current achievements? People walk towards greater heights. We should have greater goals and dreams. You mean to be a god and control the life and death of others? Can't I? No. Why? I am also a human. If the god clan had really dominated us back then we would have been livestock, allowing them to do whatever they wanted. Does that feel good?" Tang Zheng asked. Of course it doesn't. That's why we have to change our roles. We can't be controlled by others, we have to control others. Ha ha ha, you're twisting words and forcing logic. Tang Zheng criticized in disdain. Don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself. Don't you understand this principle? Yuan Ying's doppelganger couldn't win the argument. He said with an angry snort, "In any case, this matter must be done. It's useless even if you object." Tang Zheng had never thought that he would disagree with Yuan Ying's doppelganger so quickly. This was a fatal difference. If it wasn't handled well, Yuan Ying's doppelganger might become the second heavenly Tao. He gazed forward. The heavenly Tao couldn't be seen, but he knew it was right in front of him. All of this was caused by the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao was the fuse. If it weren't for him, Yuan Ying's doppelganger wouldn't have thought about this. Controlling the life and death of others and enslaving humans? Then what were they? He would never allow such a thing to happen. Seeing Tang Zheng's fluctuating expression, the heavenly Tao asked curiously, "What are you thinking about?" Tang Zheng glared angrily and said, "Heavenly Tao, all of this started because of you. If I don't destroy you, there will be endless trouble in the future. Don't even think about escaping today." Swoosh. With that, the hidden mysterious sword slashed out once again. The oasis below split open and turned into a canyon. The heaven-suppressing seal met the attack head-on. The ground caved in and became a bottomless pit. The two sides exchanged blows and turned the place into a mess. They were approaching the tree of life step by step. Tang Zheng was apprehensive of Yuan Ying's doppelganger and didn't want to get close to the tree of life. However, the heavenly Tao was leaning toward the tree of life. He had no choice but to chase after it step by step and persevere. Boom! The aftermath of an attack landed on the tree of life. A ray of light rose from the tree of life and blocked the aftermath. Meanwhile, the tree of life trembled and buzzed, swaying continuously as if it was about to topple over. Heavenly Tao, don't hurt the tree of life. You want to become the god of this world, but you don't want to destroy it, right? Tang Zheng reminded. The heavenly Tao was slightly startled and said, "You've thought it through. This tree of life can't be lost." With that said, Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. Both sides had reached an agreement on this matter. At least the tree of life was preserved. However, before he could rejoice, small black holes appeared around the tree of life. They tore the space into thousands of holes and completely enveloped the tree of life from its roots. "What are you doing?" Tang Zheng suddenly had an ominous premonition and screamed in shock. The heavenly Tao was also shocked and shouted, "Tang Zheng, what are you doing?" Chapter 1825. The heavenly Tao mistakenly thought that all of this was done by Tang Zheng and shouted angrily. "It's not me." Tang Zheng explained, "It's Yuan Ying's clone." "What does he want to do?" the heavenly Tao asked. "You gave him a direction, he also wants to become a god." Tang Zheng said helplessly. The heavenly Tao was stunned and laughed disdainfully. "Who does he think he is? He's just a clone and he wants to become a god? What a joke." The heavenly Tao did not put Yuan Ying's clone in his eyes at all. "Heavenly Tao, you really have a problem with your eyesight. No wonder after so many years, you still can't become a true god. Your vision limits your realm." The voice of Yuan Ying's clone came out of the black holes and echoed in the air like a loudspeaker, resounding through the clouds. The heavenly Tao was shocked and flew into a rage. "A mere clone dares to speak such arrogant words. I want to see what method you have to become a god. A method you can't even dream of." Yuan Ying's clone said proudly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A strong wind blew between heaven and earth as a huge suction force came out of the black holes and locked onto the tree of life like chains. Rumble rumble rumble. A loud sound came from underground and the ground trembled. "What are you doing?" the heavenly Tao asked in horror. Tang Zheng sighed and said, "Isn't it obvious? He wants to absorb the tree of life into the black holes." "What?" the heavenly Tao cried out in disbelief. He had never thought of this even in his dreams. Tang Zheng went straight to the point. Yuan Ying's clone wants to use the tree of life's energy to become a god in the heavenly realm. Heavenly realm? The heavenly Tao said thoughtfully, "The world where you trapped Yan Qingyi, right?" "Yes." Tang Zheng did not hide it and said, "Once the tree of life is absorbed into the heavenly realm will undergo a huge change and Yuan Ying's clone will become a god in the heavenly realm, omnipotent and completely controlling the heavenly realm." Heavenly Tao exclaimed, "Then he will become a true god." In the Great Thousand World, it was precisely because the divine race controlled certain worlds that they could become the divine race. They could seize the power of a world for their own use. The higher the level of this world, the more powerful the god race will be. Tang Zheng's eyebrows twitched. This was the first time he had heard this argument. "I have never paid attention to your heaven realm. Now, it seems that I was too careless. If I had known earlier, I would have destroyed your heaven realm. Wouldn't I not have to worry about this?" The heavenly Tao was filled with regret. It's too late for regrets. Just watch as I become a god." Yuan Ying's clone laughed. The heavenly Tao said coldly, "I won't let you succeed." The heavenly Tao knew very well that if Yuan Ying's avatar became a god, he would be in danger. Even if he did not have a physical body, Yuanying's avatar could still destroy him. This was a moment of life and death. The heavenly Tao changed the topic and said to Tang Zheng, you don't want Yuanying's avatar to become a god, right? Why don't you join forces with me to stop him? The heavenly Tao actually wanted to join forces with Tang Zheng to fight against Yuanying's avatar. This shocked Tang Zheng. The heavenly Tao's direction changed too quickly. Yuanying's avatar said sarcastically, Heavenly Tao, in order to achieve your goal, you are really unscrupulous. You even used such a method. The heavenly Tao disagreed and said, as long as I can achieve my goal, what is this? Do you think Tang Zheng will agree to you? Who doesn't know your ambitions? If he joins forces with you and destroys my plan, wouldn't that be helping you? Once you become a god, the first one to be unlucky will be him. After all, I am his identity. Even if I become a god, I won't be a threat to him. Do you think he will still help you after analyzing the pros and cons? Yuanying's avatar's analysis was clear and logical. Every sentence was on point, poking at Tang Zheng's heart. Tang Zheng's expression kept changing as he hesitated. The heavenly Tao asked anxiously, Tang Zheng, what do you think? Time is of the essence. If you don't make up your mind, it will really be too late. There's nothing you can do. Tang Zheng suddenly raised his head and glanced at the tree of life, then looked in the direction of the heavenly Tao. His eyes gradually became firm as he said in a clear voice, Heavenly Tao, I am your enemy, not your friend. No matter what the situation is, I can't help you. I have seen everything you have done. How can I not understand your character? If you succeed one day, there will be no way for me to live. Not only me, but I'm afraid the entire world will become your plaything. How can I let you do as you wish? These words were powerful and resonant, completely destroying the last trace of hope in the heavenly Tao's heart. His anger was like an erupting volcano, enveloping this space. Only his roar could be heard echoing between heaven and earth. Tang Zheng, you will regret it. Tang Zheng was unmoved and turned a deaf ear. Ha, heavenly Tao, have you given up now? Yuanying's avatar seemed to have known this would happen and said proudly. Humph, you are jackals of the same tribe. Even if Tang Zheng doesn't help me, I'm not afraid of you. The heavenly Tao said firmly, but everyone knew that he was stubborn. If he was really confident, he wouldn't need to ask for help from Tang Zheng. Then let me go. I want to see how you will stop me. Yuanying's avatar snorted and said disdainfully. Rumble. The loud noise below the tree of life became even more intense. It was as if countless roots were being pulled out from the soil and rocks. A dazzling light soared from the tree of life. Tree of life, why are you resisting? This will do you more good than harm. Yuanying's avatar advised. Swish. What answered him was a resplendent light that enveloped the terrifying power that was locking the tree of life in an attempt to stop all of this. Unfortunately, your resistance is useless. You will only make me succeed faster. As expected, after the tree of life split into two, the rumbling sound from the ground became even louder. The tree of life began to tremble violently, as if it was going to be uprooted at any moment. Stop! The heavenly Tao roared and turned into a tornado that rushed over. The tornado split into two, then four, and finally countless tornadoes that resisted the suction force of the black hole in an attempt to shatter those chains. It's futile. Yuanying's avatar said disdainfully. The black hole suddenly expanded and the suction force increased. The sky was filled with devastation, completely occupied by the black hole. Ha ha ha, am I right? You can't stop all of this. Tree of life, come. Bang, bang, bang. The tornadoes exploded one after another, unable to resist the suction force of the black hole and were torn into pieces. The tree of life gradually pulled out from the soil and slowly flew toward the black hole. Chapter 1826. The heavenly Tao had completely lost its mind and roared crazily, You forced me to do this. Even if we perish together, I will not let you succeed. Boom. Boom! A series of loud noises came from the sky. Then, cracks appeared in the sky. It was as if a terrifying force had torn the sky apart. At the same time, cracks appeared on the ground, turning into ravines, turning the oasis into a scene of devastation. The heavens fell and the earth cracked. When Tang Jing saw this scene, his eyelids twitched violently. The heavenly Tao was really going all out. Hoo hoo hoo. Violent gales raged, and the sky turned into an azure hell. Heavenly Tao, stop! Are you trying to destroy the human world? Tang Jing cried out in shock. Tian Dao was furious. You forced me to do this. So what if the human world is destroyed? I won't be destroyed. None of you can stop me. Ka ka ka. Chasms appeared one after another, rapidly spreading in all directions from the tree of life, as if it really wanted to cut the earth of this world into countless pieces. Yuanying's doppelganger, you should stop as well. Tang Zheng was at his wit's end and could only advise the other one. Ha ha ha. Yuanying's doppelganger laughed maniacally. Tang Zheng, you can't stop him. So what if he destroys the human world? We still have the heaven realm. When the time comes, we can still survive. Nonsense. The human world is our foundation. What good will it do you to destroy it? Tang Jing retorted. So what if I destroy a world that doesn't belong to me? You should just watch the show. The heavenly Tao is just struggling in its death throes. It's useless. Yuanying's clone said disdainfully. Even if it's a deathbed struggle, I'm going to drag you down with me. Heavenly Tao was hysterical. He had already lost his rationality and was going crazy. Whoosh! Whoosh! Strands of black chi extended from the chasm like shackles, firmly grasping the tree of life. At the same time, a lot of black gas appeared in the cracks in the sky and rushed toward the black hole. Unknowingly, the sky gradually darkened, as if a curtain of darkness had been drawn. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted as he felt an ominous premonition. Ever night descends. The heavenly Tao said proudly, that's right. If I can teach Hao Tianwang's descent of eternal night, then I can definitely use it as well. Furthermore, my attainments are far above his. Do you think I don't have a way? You're all wrong. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He had seen the descent of the eternal night before and knew that it was an extremely powerful divine ability. If the heavenly Tao's attainments in the descent of the eternal night far surpassed Hao Tianwang's, he had no confidence in his heart. He didn't know if Yuanying's clone could withstand it. Yuanying's doppelganger's voice became low. He knew this very well, but there was no turning back. He had no choice but to charge forward. Yuanying's doppelganger wasn't intimidated. Her voice became high-pitched again, filled with boundless fighting spirit. Then I'll test your descent of eternal night. Let's see if my sky-swallowing technique is stronger or if your descent of eternal night is stronger. Boom! The black hole spun rapidly. The endless darkness within seemed to have a magical power that could devour everything. Sky-swallowing. Tang Jing shivered. He immediately recognized that this was Yuanying's doppelganger activating the highest level of the sky-swallowing technique, sky-swallowing. Ever since Tang Zheng had completely mastered the sky-swallowing technique, he had yet to truly unleash its full power and display the full might of the sky-swallowing technique. Therefore, even he himself wasn't clear about the true might of the sky-swallowing technique. One person used the descent of the eternal night, while the other used the sky-swallowing technique. They were like two sharp needles against an awl. There was no clear answer as to who would emerge victorious. Tang Zheng let out a long sigh and said, Heavenly Tao, you want to destroy the world. If you hadn't done so, I might have been able to remain neutral. But you want to drag the world down with you, so don't blame me. Whoosh! He rose into the air, stepped on the somersault cloud, and dove down toward the black shackles. The hidden profound sword glowed with a dazzling light. It descended from the sky and turned into a giant sword, as if it wanted to slash apart the world. Tang Zheng, you still helped him. Heavenly Tao was furious and roared incessantly. You forced me to do this. Tang Zheng said helplessly. Then all of you can come at me together. All of you must die. Heavenly Tao's killing intent soared to the sky, and a chain was flung toward Tang Zheng. Boom! The hidden profound sword struck the chain, causing it to break inch by inch. Tang Zheng did not even have the time to catch his breath before the broken bits of black aura once again gathered together. A new chain was reborn. The chain stirred, and the aura of the world was stirred up, turning into a black tornado. It roared as it swept toward Tang Zheng. The somersault cloud was fast and nimble, shuttling back and forth around the tornado. With a few rumbling sounds, the tornado exploded, and the hidden profound sword once again shattered the chain. That dazzling sword light dispersed all the darkness. Ha ha ha, Tang Zheng, good job. You and I are one, so we should work together to resist Heavenly Tao. Let him be completely finished. Yuan Ying's clone was overjoyed and couldn't stop laughing. Whoosh whoosh. The power of the sky-swallowing technique was raised to the extreme. The black hole became bigger and bigger, spinning faster and faster. The tree of life sped up and flew toward the black hole. As for those black chains, they couldn't stop the power of the black hole. Heavenly Tao shouted, Tang Zheng, go to hell. Tang Zheng was a sage, a true expert. Heavenly Tao couldn't ignore his attacks, especially under repeated attacks. Heavenly Tao couldn't help but be distracted, and still couldn't easily kill Tang Zheng as he said. Tang Zheng also saw this point, and sped up his attacks. One chain after another was cut off, as if he had cut off Heavenly Tao's left and right arms. Heavenly Tao roared non-stop, and it was clearly injured. Eternal night descends. Suddenly, Heavenly Tao roared, and the sky completely darkened. The light between heaven and earth seemed to be absorbed, as if someone had turned off the light switch in the dark night. Heaven and earth fell into darkness, and one couldn't see their fingers in front of them. Darkness gathered from all directions, and an earth-shattering power acted on Tang Zheng's body, as if it wanted to crush him into pieces. The descent of the eternal night is indeed not to be underestimated. Tang Zheng cultivated the chaotic Vajra spell, so it was easier said than done for this dark energy to crush him. His entire body flickered with golden light, like a Vajra. Other than dispersing the power of darkness, it was unable to harm him at all. However, his breathing quickened a little. After all, the pressure was not to be underestimated. The tree of life was surrounded by darkness, and even the light it emitted was much weaker, as if it was about to be devoured by the darkness. Yuan Ying's clone roared, devour the heavens. Boom! The earth trembled and soil flew into the sky. Rocks flew out from the ground and quickly flew towards the black hole. A moment later, a huge hole appeared. The ground seemed to have caved in, and even more soil and rocks flew towards the black hole and disappeared. When the Heavenly Tao saw this, it turned pale with fright. Are you really going to suck this world away? Swallow the heavens, could it be that you can really swallow the heavens? How could there be such a heaven-defying ability in this world? Boom boom boom. Chapter 1827. The earth caved in and the sky was torn apart. The darkness that pervaded the world was also torn apart. Light penetrated through the cracks like rays of dawn. The embodiment of the way of the heavens actually felt that it was difficult to control its body and mind and wanted to fly towards the black hole. The way of the heavens roared, don't even think about succeeding. So. A figure slowly appeared in the void. The air fluctuated violently as circles of ripples spread out in all directions, creating a great momentum. Tang Zheng had already broken free from the shackles of the darkness. His entire body flickered with golden light, like a golden man. His pupils shrank as he stared at the newly appeared figure and cried out in alarm, the way of the heavens. He saw that this person was extremely handsome. His long robes fluttered in the wind and his eyes were like lightning. He was like a celestial being. You finally revealed your true body. I thought you really didn't have a true body. Tang Zheng coldly said. The Way of the Heavens stared at Tang Zheng with bright eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, "You forced me to do all of this." He opened his hands and waved them towards the world. The darkness of the world once again gathered and enveloped his body. "Let's see what other moves you have." Tang Zheng was not afraid. He held the hidden profound sword and turned into a ray of light, charging into the darkness. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sounds of an intense battle resounded through the world. Without the restriction of the Way of the Heavens, the Yuanying clone's attack power increased greatly. A roar seemed to come from the black hole. The Tree of Life approached the black hole, and with a flash of light, the black hole swallowed half of the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life's light immediately dimmed. A powerful airflow was produced between heaven and earth, shaking the world. The soil on the ground rose up and flew into the black hole. A bottomless hole appeared. It was as if the entire world was about to be sucked into the black hole. Boom! With a loud sound, the darkness in the sky was torn open and could not be healed. The Way of the Heavens and Tang Zheng's figures appeared once again. Blood dripped from the hidden profound sword, and Tang Zheng's body was also injured. Blood flowed down the soles of his feet. Tian Dao looked at Tang Zheng in a wretched state. He was startled and said in disbelief, "You can actually hurt me." Tang Zheng snorted coldly and said, "You and I are both saints. What's so strange about me injuring you?" At the same time, Tang Zheng's mind was in turmoil. He was someone who cultivated the primal chaos Vajra spell, and his entire body was impregnable, but he was still injured by the heavenly Tao. Good, very good. Tian Dao gnashed his teeth. Suddenly, his gaze turned and landed on the Tree of Life. His eyes widened as he roared, "The two of you work together flawlessly. The Tree of Life is really going to fall into your hands." Tang Zheng also saw this scene and sighed inwardly. Yuanying's avatar was really too smart, not letting go of any opportunity. Now, half of the Tree of Life had already entered the black hole. Even Tang Zheng might not be able to save the situation. This time, Yuanying's clone succeeded. Tang Zheng lowered his head and looked down at the bottomless cave. For a moment, he was a little absent-minded. A crazed expression suddenly surfaced on Tian Dao's face as he shouted, "Let's perish together. No one will be able to survive." Whiz! With that said, the heavenly Tao turned into a ray of black light, leaving behind an afterimage in the sky. Like a meteor streaking across the sky, it flew towards the Tree of Life. Tang Zheng came back to his senses and was shocked. He shouted, "Heavenly Tao, what are you doing?" The heavenly Tao did not answer Tang Zheng, but his actions had already explained everything. Bang! The heavenly Tao collided with the Tree of Life, causing a ball of black light to explode. The heavenly Tao disappeared, and the black light quickly climbed up the Tree of Life like maggots. Only half of the Tree of Life was exposed outside the black hole, but the black light enveloped this half of the Tree of Life, resisting the suction force of the black hole. Roar! Suddenly, Yuanying's clone roared and descended from the sky, landing in front of the Tree of Life. He flew into a rage and said, "Heavenly Tao, do you want to stop me like this?" The heavenly Tao's voice sounded, "I have merged with the Tree of Life. Can you still suck me into this black hole?" The heavenly Tao seemed to be quite confident in himself and did not believe that Yuanying's clone had this ability. Yuanying's clone was silent for a while, then he snorted and said, "You've really used the sky-swallowing technique." With that said, the black hole suddenly expanded like a bloody mouth, occupying half of the sky as if it wanted to swallow the world. Tang Zheng sucked in a breath of cold air and roared, "No!" He soared into the sky, and a vast amount of energy broke through the air, interweaving into a large net and covering the world. Whoosh whoosh! A strong wind blew as the Tree of Life flew into the black hole again. The heavenly Tao roared hysterically, "How is this possible? The sky-swallowing technique could actually ignore him and swallow him along with the Tree of Life." The heavenly Tao could not help but panic. On the other hand, Tang Zheng gritted his teeth and bitterly held on. His cheeks turned red at first, then gradually turned pale as his power was quickly consumed. His power enveloped the earth, resisting the sky-swallowing technique's divine might. He also knew that this was a drop in the bucket and that it was impossible to succeed, but he did not give up. I must hold on. Tang Zheng gritted his teeth, and his expression gradually became firm. Sky-swallowing technique. Yuan Ying's clone shouted, and the suction force of the black hole suddenly increased, and a strong wind wrapped around the tree of life. Whoosh! The tree of life accelerated toward the black hole, unable to resist. The heavenly Tao screamed, "No!" The black light receded from the tree of life like a receding tide, but it was all too late. The strong wind did not give the heavenly Tao a chance and rushed into the black hole in the blink of an eye. At the black hole, the black light gathered together with difficulty and turned into the heavenly Tao's appearance. He tried his best to escape. However, he could no longer escape. Boom! The heavenly Tao exploded and shattered, turning into wisps of black light that were completely swallowed by the black hole and disappeared, turning into vast and mighty energy that merged into the heavenly realm. Seeing this, Tang Zheng shouted, "Yuan Ying, stop, don't use the sky-swallowing technique." Yuan Ying glanced at Tang Zheng, jumped into the black hole, and disappeared. The black hole disappeared, and the world returned to normal. It was no longer threatened by the sky-swallowing technique. This world was temporarily saved. Whoosh! Tang Zheng gasped for breath, looking at the empty sky, disappointed and frustrated. Was the heavenly Tao really destroyed just like that? He had never thought that the heavenly Tao would disappear in such a way, especially when it was inextricably linked to him. Tang Zheng. Yuan Ying has such a great harvest, what is he doing? Tang Zheng's mind moved, and his divine sense entered the heavenly realm, and he was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. The tree of life rose from the ground and grew into the sky. Countless amounts of energy fell from the sky and were completely absorbed by the tree of life. The tree of life's light became more and more dazzling. At the same time, there were also bits of black light falling. Yuan Ying's clone stood on the treetop of the tree of life and raised his head to devour the black light. Chapter 1828. Yuan Ying's clone rapidly expanded. In a short while, it became even taller than the tree of life. It was a true giant. The terrifying aura emitted from his body made one's heart skip a beat. Even Tang Zheng was no exception. He seems to be undergoing some subtle changes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Rays of light rushed out from Yuan Ying's clone. Immediately, the heaven realm was bathed in purple light. Even the light of the tree of life could not compete with it. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, a burst of wild laughter resounded throughout the heaven realm. It was like rolling thunder that exploded above the 9 heavens. At the same time, a mysterious and powerful aura was emitted from Yuan Ying's clone and filled the heaven realm. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He realized that Yuan Ying's clone had completed some kind of transformation. He had actually guessed it, but he did not dare to be sure or believe it. So this is what it feels like to be a god. Yuan Ying's clone was pleased with himself. He stretched his muscles and took a step forward. The ground cracked open, and a bottomless ravine appeared. Finally, it became a rift valley. God! A complicated look flashed across Tang Zheng's eyes. His guess had actually come true. Yuan Ying's clone had really advanced to become a god. The heavenly axiom had worked tirelessly and dreamed of it for so many years. In the end, it did not succeed. Instead, it benefited Yuan Ying's clone. He had actually succeeded just like that. The energy of the tree of life and the heavenly axiom had helped him cross this tall threshold. Tang Zheng stopped in his tracks as he was blocked outside the door, unable to experience the feeling of a nascent soul avatar. However, he knew that he might not be able to trap Yuan Ying's clone anymore. Perhaps Yuan Ying's clone could still threaten him. However, he did not escape. Facing Yuan Ying's clone, he had nowhere to run. The heaven realm was closely connected to him. Yuan Ying's clone could find him through the heaven realm at any time. Yuan Ying's clone's laughter stopped abruptly. He raised his head and looked at the 9 heavens. He knew that there was a pair of invisible eyes watching everything, watching him. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank as he looked at Yuan Ying's doppelganger. He could see Yuan Ying's doppelganger, but Yuan Ying's doppelganger couldn't see him. However, the blazing gaze of Yuan Ying's doppelganger seemed to be able to penetrate the layers of barriers and truly see Tang Zheng. Are you scared? Yuan Ying's doppelganger teased. Tang Zheng's expression turned cold, and he said, "You're from the god race, I'm not afraid of you." Huh, is that so? Yuan Ying's avatar strode forward. Although it was far away from Tang Zheng and was not in the same space, the violent aura that rushed towards him still caused Tang Zheng's spirit to surge. So this is the god race? There is indeed a world of difference between it and the saint realm. Tang Zheng suppressed the surging tide in his heart. His will was firm, and he said without changing his expression, "Don't scare me in the heaven realm. If you want to kill me, come to the human realm." Yuan Ying's doppelganger stopped and said with a smile, "Haha, don't worry, I won't kill you. You and I are one. If you die, it won't do me any good." Tang Zheng frowned, half believing and half doubting. He didn't completely believe what Yuan Ying's doppelganger said. The other party was more cunning than him. If he believed him so easily, it would be too late for regrets. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me. Anyway, from now on, you and I won't interfere with each other's business. Yuan Ying's doppelganger shrugged and said lazily. Tang Zheng didn't comment and asked, "Then what do you plan to do next? Do you want to know?" Tang Zheng didn't deny it and asked directly, "Will you still attack the human realm?" This was the question that Tang Zheng was most concerned about. If Yuan Ying's doppelganger insisted on doing things his own way and still wanted to absorb the human realm into the heaven realm, then he would fight Yuan Ying to the death even if he had to sacrifice himself. Yuan Ying's doppelganger understood Tang Zheng better than anyone else. Naturally, he also thought of this point. He shook his head and said, "I'm already a member of the god race. Why would I care about the human realm?" Tang Zheng sighed in relief. "Don't worry, I won't attack the human realm," Yuan Ying's doppelganger promised. Tang Zheng had no other choice but to believe this promise. As for what I should do next, Yuan Ying's doppelganger's lips curled and he said with a meaningful smile, "According to the heavenly Tao, the god race is a very powerful race. Since I'm already a member of the god race, I should go and find them." What? Tang Zheng was shocked. Yuan Ying's doppelganger actually wanted to go and find the god race? Did you forget what the heavenly Tao said? The god race isn't that simple, and they aren't necessarily friendly. Aren't you just seeking your own death if you go? Tang Zheng asked loudly. Oh, is this related to me? After all, we come from the same origin, yet you still care about this friendship. Yuan Ying's doppelganger said. Tang Zheng coldly snorted and said, "I'm not thinking about any friendship. I just don't want others to say that my doppelganger is actually an idiot." Yuan Ying's doppelganger wasn't angry and said indifferently, "You're wrong. Since I've become a member of the god race, should lead the god race and create a glory that belongs to the god race. Right now, no one knows about the god race, and their reputation isn't well known. This is too much of a waste. It's simply a stain on the god race's reputation. I will change this terrible situation and let the god race shine in every world." Yuan Ying's doppelganger's face flushed red with excitement. Tang Zheng stared at him in a daze and couldn't help but be speechless. Crazy, proud, condescending, there seemed to be no words that could describe him perfectly. Tang Zheng shook his head and didn't think about this problem. This was no longer something he could control. He casually asked, "Then are you going to leave?" "No." Yuan Ying's doppelganger's answer surprised Tang Zheng. His eyelids twitched and he said, "The heaven realm hasn't been perfected yet. How can I just leave? What does the heaven realm need to be perfected?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. Yuan Ying's doppelganger smiled and didn't answer. He quickly took action. With a wave of his hand, a torrential rain fell from the sky and nourished the earth. The rumbling sound of water came from those ravines and accumulated more and more until they became large rivers. The flood gathered in one direction and finally formed lakes and seas. At the same time, a loud noise came from underground. Mountains rose from the ground. Some were tall, some were short, some were dangerous, and some were strange. Mountain peaks decorated the heaven realm. Yuan Ying's doppelganger waved his hand again. All kinds of trees and plants broke out of the ground. They were lush and verdant, turning the heaven realm into a colorful world. It seems that something is missing. Yuan Ying's doppelganger muttered to himself, completely ignoring Tang Zheng's surprised gaze. Tang Zheng wasn't just surprised, he was horrified. This was an unprecedented emotion. Even he couldn't control it and revealed all his true feelings. With just a wave of his hand, the nascent soul avatar had done something that he had never been able to do. He had transformed the heaven realm into a completely different world. Hearing that he was missing something, Tang Jing frowned and subconsciously thought about it. Chapter 1829. Yuan Ying's doppelganger sensed Tang Zheng's doubts and went straight to the point. Don't you feel that it's a little less lively? Tang Zheng looked down at the vast heaven realm. It was lush and full of vitality. How could it be lacking in vitality? To be exact, it's lacking in vitality, Yuan Ying's doppelganger said in high spirits. Tang Zheng's expression changed abruptly. He exclaimed, "You want to create a human?" Yuan Ying's doppelganger raised his head proudly and stared at the sky. Why not? Didn't you hear what the heavenly Tao said? Humans were created by the God race. I'm already a God race. Is there a problem with creating a human? Tang Zheng's emotions surged. He was truly stunned. Can you really create a human? Yuan Ying's doppelganger nodded without hesitation. Of course. You're only at the saint realm. You can't experience the infinite power of the God race. Of course, you can't imagine it. Tang Zheng seemed to be in a mess. I'm also a human. You actually want to create my own kind. Why not? Yuan Ying's doppelganger asked back. Tang Zheng was speechless. It's useless for you to object. I've already made up my mind. Yuan Ying's doppelganger said unquestionably, you're very lucky to be able to witness this historic moment. Tang Zheng moved his mouth, but in the end, he didn't say anything to dissuade him. He had no way to dissuade him. He could only watch helplessly. Yuan Ying's doppelganger waved his hand. A clump of soil flew up from the ground and fell into his palm. The soil changed in his palm, gradually becoming crystal clear and emitting a luster. Suddenly, a blazing light exploded in his palm and enveloped his palm. He couldn't see any specific changes anymore. Tang Zheng didn't dare to relax at all. He didn't want to miss any details. This was exactly the same as the legend of creating a human by pinching soil. Yuan Ying's doppelganger was actually recreating the legend. Perhaps in a few years, the actions of Yuan Ying's doppelganger would also become a legend. Bang! With a loud explosion, the ball of light exploded. Yuan Ying's doppelganger smiled and stared at the center of her palm. The light dispersed, and a lifelike little person appeared. Tang Zheng's pupils constricted. Indeed, he could feel a surge of vitality from this little person. This was a real person. To be exact, it was a woman, but her physique was too small, only the length of an arm. Her entire body was naked, and her curves were exquisite. Her figure was excellent. What do you think of my humanoid creation skills? Yuan Ying's doppelganger asked as if he was presenting a treasure. Tang Zheng gritted his teeth and said, it seems too small. Huh, what's so difficult about that? Yuan Ying's doppelganger flipped his palm, and the little one fell from his palm and landed on the ground. When her bare feet touched the ground, she grew with the wind. Not long after, she had become as tall as an ordinary person. Tang Zheng was dumbfounded. This was simply a miracle. The woman was not embarrassed by her naked appearance. Instead, she had a solemn expression as she knelt down in front of Yuan Ying's doppelganger and said, "Exalted God. Exalted God." These two words caused Tang Zheng's heart to be filled with mixed feelings. Yuan Ying's doppelganger had really become a legendary god. Yuan Ying's doppelganger smiled faintly and nodded in satisfaction. "You are too lonely in this world alone. I'll find you a companion." As soon as he finished speaking, a ball of soil flew into his palm. Just like before, a majestic and powerful man appeared. Yuan Ying's doppelganger flipped his palm, and the man fell to the ground and grew up. He knelt down in front of Yuan Ying's doppelganger and said, "Exalted God." Yuan Ying's doppelganger nodded in satisfaction. "This pair is interesting. You guys go ahead and create humans. I want this world to be full of vitality and surging with people. However, you are created people, so how can you be the same as ordinary people?" Tang Zheng sensed something and asked, "What are you going to do?" Yuan Ying's doppelganger pointed his finger, and two rays of light entered the space between the man and woman's eyebrows. Immediately, their bodies bloomed with light and were filled with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. There was no doubt that at this moment, the two of them had become cultivation geniuses. Their bodies were undergoing earth-shattering changes. After a while, they had actually reached the Mahayana realm. Since this is the heavenly realm, then you are naturally celestials, not mortals. Since the moment you were born, you were cultivation geniuses that were 1 in 10,000. You have advantages that others can't compare to. These are the people I created. Yuan Ying's doppelganger said loftily. The words celestial made Tang Zheng speechless. Yuan Ying's doppelganger was so arrogant that even he was ashamed of his inferiority. "What do you think of what I did?" Yuan Ying's doppelganger asked complacently. Tang Zheng opened his mouth but could not say anything negative. He could only tell the truth. "Amazing. Ha ha ha." Yuan Ying's doppelganger laughed wildly. "It is because you and I are one that I know the weight of your 2 words. Good, with your 2 words, everything is enough. I am very satisfied." Tang Zheng was resentful and did not know how to respond. Yuan Ying's doppelganger said again, "There is no longer anything for me to linger in the human world. I am leaving." "Are you really going to look for the god race?" Tang Zheng asked. "Of course, goodbye. We will definitely meet again." Yuan Ying's doppelganger cupped his hands and said, "Goodbye." Tang Zheng spat out these 2 words with difficulty. Suddenly, the heavenly realm fluctuated violently. Tang Zheng was shocked and asked, "What are you going to do?" "Since I am leaving, the heavenly realm will naturally leave with me." "You want to take the heavenly realm away?" Tang Zheng was shocked. He really did not expect this. "Yes, the heavenly realm will integrate into the upper-class world and grow and develop rapidly. One day, it will become a dazzling new world." Yuan Ying's doppelganger said with certainty and was very bewitching. Tang Zheng realized the subtlety and asked anxiously, "Then I will never see the heavenly realm again?" "No, after all, you have contributed to the creation of the heavenly realm. I will give you a privilege to let you witness the development of the heavenly realm. Can't you only enter the Langya Pavilion once a month? Then I will also set a time limit for you. You can enter the heavenly realm once a month. This way, you can witness the development of the heavenly realm with your own eyes." Yuan Ying's doppelganger was high and mighty, but Tang Zheng was helpless because he had completely broken away from the control of the heavenly realm. Yuan Ying's doppelganger was the true master of the heavenly realm. Tang Zheng did not decline this privilege. To be honest, he was also very curious about what kind of changes would happen to the heavenly realm. You can also continue to use the sky swallowing technique. The energy absorbed will become nutrients for the heavenly realm, nourishing and strengthening it. Yuan Ying's doppelganger said, "However, you might not do so. After all, the master of the heavenly realm is no longer you. You might not do such a thing." Tang Zheng snorted and did not comment. Yuan Ying's doppelganger did not mind and said, "I'm going." As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Zheng's consciousness was kicked out of the heavenly realm. When he used the sky-swallowing technique again, he found that there was no trace of the heavenly realm at all. From then on, the heavenly realm was really separated from him and had nothing to do with him. He could only enter the heavenly realm again after a month. He did not know what the heavenly realm would be like by then. Chapter 1830. The tree of life was no longer there. Tang Zheng looked at the mess below and felt sad. There were too many ups and downs in the human world. Seeing that the human world had been promoted to a boundless world, he did not expect that the reality was too cruel. Now, it was back to its original state. Where would the fate of the human world go? Both the world of spirits and the human world had become small worlds that could be annihilated at any time. Tang Zheng immediately felt that the responsibility on his shoulders had become heavier. These two worlds are related to me. I must not let them be destroyed. Moreover, this matter was caused by Yuanying's clone. I am duty-bound. Tang Zheng silently made a decision to find a solution. He took a last look at the scene of devastation and was about to leave. In the distance, many figures flew over. Boom! A thunderbolt sounded in the sky, and a door opened. The Ghost Gate. Tang Zheng recognized it. Rich Yin Qi was pouring out from the Ghost Gate. Tang Zheng stopped in his tracks as he guessed the reason. It must be the fierce battle just now that caused the world of spirits and souls to shake. After all, the world of spirits and the human world were a mother and child world with a mysterious connection. Dizang of Goguryeo came. Tang Zheng saw Dizang of Goguryeo come out of the Ghost Gate alone and slowly landed beside him. Dizang of Goguryeo looked dignified, especially when he saw that there was no trace of the tree of life and the devastated ground. He had already realized the seriousness of the problem. What happened? Dizang of Goguryeo could not wait to ask. I felt an abnormal fluctuation in the world of spirits and hurried over. What's going on? Sigh. Tang Zheng sighed and did not rush to explain. Dizang of Goguryo's heart thumped. For Tang Zheng to have such a reaction, it must be a big deal. Moreover, the tree of life was missing. Dizang of Goguryo had already vaguely guessed something. Tang Zheng pointed into the distance and said, when they come, I'll explain it to them. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looked up and nodded in understanding, not saying a word. The atmosphere became very stifling. Even though the two of them were top-notch experts, they felt like their hearts were being pressed down by a 1,000-pound boulder. Tang Zheng, what's wrong? You found the heavenly Tao? The Emperor of Heaven impatiently asked as a group of people rushed over. When the others saw the mess below, they were all shocked. Especially when they didn't see the tree of life, a few of them cried out in alarm. Where is the tree of life? Whoosh! Whoosh! Everyone's expression was incomparably solemn, as if their hearts had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Tang Zheng waved his hand, indicating for everyone to be quiet. Everyone immediately kept quiet out of fear and stared at him. Cough cough. Tang Zheng coughed twice to clear his thoughts and said, everyone, listen to me carefully. The tree of life has been completely lost from the human world and will never come back. Although everyone was aware of this serious situation, when they heard Tang Zheng confirm this point, they couldn't help but gasp and exclaim that it was impossible. However, the truth was right in front of them. Tang Zheng couldn't possibly lie to everyone. So, after the initial shock, they all stopped and stared at Tang Zheng. Is it the doing of the heavenly Tao? The Emperor of Heaven asked in a deep voice. He had the deepest relationship with the heavenly Tao. In the past, he believed in the heavenly Tao and thought that it was the great Tao of the human world. It was the great Tao that he tirelessly pursued. Later on, he discovered that he was ridiculously wrong. Even his ancestors had been deceived. The heavenly Tao only wanted to use them. Moreover, the heavenly Tao was very narrow-minded. In order to achieve its goal, it would do anything. This was the opposite of the Emperor of Heaven's beliefs. So, He gradually gave up on the so-called heavenly Tao and turned to pursue his own Tao. Tang Zheng wholeheartedly wanted to find the heavenly Tao. That earth-shattering battle just now could be said to be a battle with the heavenly Tao. The heavenly emperor found it hard to imagine who else in this world had the ability to do so. Tang Zheng understood the emperor of heaven's thoughts and said, "The heavenly Tao has indeed come, but the tree of life was not taken away by him. It was someone else." Hiss. When these words were said, everyone sucked in a cold breath. Someone else? Who else in this world had the strength to take away the tree of life under the eyes of Tang Zheng and the heavenly Tao? They didn't dare to imagine or believe it. This was simply a fantasy. Tang Zheng understood their thoughts and no longer kept them in suspense. He said truthfully, "It was my Yuanying doppelganger. He took away the tree of life and absorbed it into the heavenly realm. From there, he helped himself to become a god." He finished speaking in one breath, but the amount of information contained in it was too much. Everyone opened their eyes wide as if they were listening to a book from heaven. Even the Emperor of Heaven and Dizang of Goguryeo, two knowledgeable people, were confused. They grasped the key point at the same time and asked in unison, "What is a god?" The others asked at the same time, "Why didn't Yuanying's doppelganger listen to your command? How could Yuanying's doppelganger be so powerful?" Tang Zheng understood their feelings and quietly listened to their questions. Then, he said in a low voice, "This is a long story." He narrated everything from the beginning to the end. No one said anything because their minds were greatly impacted. Tang Zheng's words opened the door to a whole new world for them. They were like Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden. They were shocked and captivated. For a moment, only the sound of their hearts beating violently and the fluctuating tide of their hearts could be heard. Huff, huff, huff. The sound of rapid breathing rose and fell one after another. Tang Zheng looked at them quietly. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was the first to react. He was filled with emotion as he said, "I always thought that the saint realm was the limit. I never thought that my vision was so shallow. There are actually divine beings in this world. They can split the heavens and earth apart and create humans as easily as flipping their hands." Swoosh. As soon as his voice fell, a golden light shot up from Dizang of Goguryo's body. He put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. His appearance was solemn. A huge golden shadow slowly rose from behind him and became bigger and bigger. Tang Zheng looked at this scene in surprise. Then, he suddenly understood. Dizang of Goguryo's cultivation had been hovering in the same place. When he heard Tang Zheng's words, he suddenly saw the light. The door to a new world slowly opened in front of his eyes. At this moment, he had a new understanding of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. He had an epiphany. Golden Sanskrit characters fell from the sky. A burst of Sanskrit sounds like rolling thunder sounded in their ears. The Sanskrit characters fell from the top of everyone's heads and disappeared without a trace. Suddenly, everyone's mood gradually calmed down. Their faces were like still water. An unprecedented tranquility surrounded them. Tang Zheng was not affected. Dizang of Goguryeo was also a saint realm cultivator. He was immune to Dizang of Goguryo's influence. However, the others were different. Even the Emperor of Heaven was no exception. Tang Zheng looked around. This group of people had witnessed this scene. It was really a rare opportunity. For a long time after this, they would benefit endlessly. Their cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. Congratulations, Dizang of Goguryeo. Tang Zheng congratulated. Dizang of Goguryeo smiled slightly. That solemn smile was deeply rooted in people's hearts. It was like a spring breeze. He chanted the name of Buddha high up in the sky. His voice seemed to be able to echo in the beam. Chapter 1831. Dizang of Goguryeo had ascended to the sacred realm. Everyone was immersed in it and couldn't extricate themselves for a long time. The saint realm was such an unreachable realm that one could only dream of. Even the celestial emperor was no exception. His eyes were filled with yearning and envy. Dizang of Goguryeo looked solemn, but he was the calmest. He bowed deeply to Tang Zheng and said, "Tang Zheng, thank you." Tang Zheng didn't seem to have done anything, but the information he revealed was like a stepping stone that knocked down the barrier in Dizang of Goguryeo's heart. It was as if a ray of sunlight had shone into his heart. Therefore, he had an epiphany. This was the mystery of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Everything was about opportunity, and everything depended on epiphany. There was no doubt that when Dizang of Goguryeo created the Ksitigarbha Sutra, he certainly didn't expect this scene. He saw the suffering of the people in the world and didn't hesitate to create the Ksitigarbha Sutra with his great determination to go to hell. This scripture was a collection of great achievements. Perhaps even Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva might not be able to fully comprehend the mysteries contained within. This was a kind of Tao between heaven and earth. It had its own essence and profound meaning. The others finally came to their senses and congratulated him. The two sides had fought side by side many times, so they were not unfamiliar with each other. Dizang of Goguryeo responded to them one by one. When everyone's mood gradually calmed down, they saw the devastation on the ground and the huge cave left behind after the loss of the Tree of Life. Everyone's hearts seemed to be pressed by a mountain, making it difficult for them to breathe. Pairs of eyes converged on Tang Zheng's face. Dizang of Goguryeo asked on behalf of everyone, "Tang Zheng, since Yuanying's avatar has gone to search for the Protoss, and the human world and the world of ghosts are in danger of being annihilated and collapsing at any time, what should we do?" Tang Zheng was the one with the highest cultivation and the one who knew the inside story the best. Naturally, all of this needed to be decided by him. Tang Zheng's gaze was deep, revealing the light of wisdom. If it was before, he had a different idea, but after seeing Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's epiphany, he had a flash of inspiration and had a completely different idea. He said in a deep voice, "Whether it's the human world or the world of ghosts, there are hundreds of millions of people. We can't sit and wait. Even if these two worlds have become small worlds and are in danger of being annihilated at any time, we have to find a way to protect them." Everyone nodded and agreed. The key and difficulty was how to protect these two worlds. There were no signs of the annihilation of a small world, and it did not depend on one's will. The mystery behind it was something that no one could understand. Perhaps there was no mystery at all, and it was just a random phenomenon. Tang Zheng couldn't figure it out either, but he was not discouraged. He looked at the ninth heaven and said, "The human world is invaded by the divine race. This is something we didn't know. But since we know, we can't ignore it. Previously, I might have been lucky and didn't want to have too much to do with the divine race. Because it represents too many unknowns. The unknown is fear. I can't avoid it, or my subconscious can't avoid it. In this aspect, I can't compare to Yuanying's doppelganger." Tang Zheng exposed his own shortcomings, causing those who heard him to be moved, and they all tried to console him. Tang Zheng waved his hand, indicating that it was okay. He continued, "But Dizang of Goguryeo's epiphany opened my eyes and benefited me a lot. We are not always at the mercy of others. The divine race created us. They call themselves gods. To us, they are unreachable. In fact, that's not the case." Tang Zheng changed the topic and said, "Dizang of Goguryeo can have an epiphany. Yuanying's doppelganger can be promoted to the divine race. Why can't we? We were born as humans. Although we were created by the divine race, the wisdom and potential of human beings are infinite. How can we belittle ourselves? We can also be promoted and incarnate as gods. Our own gods, not some unreachable god. This god is to protect the human world and the ghost world from external enemies and destruction. Once our own god appears, it may be able to solve the danger of the small world's annihilation. After all, when the divine race created the human world, they directly defined it as a big world. Can't a new god do this?" Boom! These words were like a clap of thunder and a wave of anger that swept through everyone's hearts. It deeply shocked and stimulated everyone. Everyone's expression changed again and again. Their breathing quickened, and their eyes revealed a thought-provoking and complicated look. Everyone was thinking and debating. How feasible were these words? Although it was too incredible, when it came from Tang Zheng's mouth, everyone stared at his serious and confident face, and they could not help but believe it a little more in their hearts. Dizang of Goguryeo said thoughtfully, "You have saved the human world and the ghost world many times. If there is anyone in the world who is qualified to be a god, and the person who is most likely to be promoted to god, it is naturally you." Everyone's eyes lit up and they stared at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. Their gazes were as if they had seen a treasure, and they nodded in agreement. "Yes, Tang Zheng, you are our god. You have saved us countless times, saved this world countless times. If the god race created this world, then you are the one who saved this world. Therefore, you are a god. You are our god." As soon as these words came out, the crowd gathered and the shouts were earth-shattering. "You are our god." Tang Zheng was startled and was at a loss. He just put forward a point, but he did not expect everyone to push him to the altar. Dizang of Goguryeo said in a deep voice, "You said that by collecting the power of faith, you can be promoted to God. That is what the heavenly axiom did, but he did not have the support of the people, so he naturally failed. But you are different. You are worshipped and loved by hundreds of millions of creatures. This power of faith comes from the bottom of your heart, and you do not use all kinds of conventional tricks and means. You should enjoy this power of faith and be promoted to God." Emperor of Heaven looked excited. He was witnessing history. Although he had no hope of being promoted to God, he still said excitedly, "We can build an altar, build a golden body, and gather your power of faith." Build an altar, build a golden body. The others echoed. Tang Zheng looked at everyone's sincere eyes and could not refute. Yuanning's clone relied on crooked ways to integrate the power of the heavenly realm and the tree of life to be promoted to God. Then he took another path and directly used the power of faith to be promoted to God. Perhaps, this was the real way to be promoted to God. After all, the heavenly axiom had chosen this path, and the heavenly axiom had been in contact with God before, so he understood God best. Tang Zheng was speechless for a long time. Just as he did not know how to answer, suddenly, a mysterious power floated up from everyone's body. It was like wisps of green smoke that floated between heaven and earth. Tang Zheng was not unfamiliar with this. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, "The power of faith." He had seen the power of faith of the heavenly axiom before, but it paled in comparison. This was the power of faith that came from the bottom of the heart, while the heavenly axiom obtained the power of faith through all kinds of tricks to win over people's hearts. There was a big difference between the two. The power of faith floated between heaven and earth. Suddenly, it surged wildly like a tornado and rushed toward Tang Zheng. Chapter 1832. When everyone saw this change, they were incomparably focused. Their eyes widened, not knowing what to do. They couldn't see the power of faith, but they knew that this change was definitely not simple. After the power of faith was injected, Tang Zheng's aura stabilized, but when they looked at him again, they found that he had become somewhat illusory. Moreover, when they looked at him, there was a kind of reverence that came from the bottom of their hearts. Dizang of Goguryeo's eyes lit up, seeing the clues, and said, "Are you moving towards the god race?" Tang Zheng took a deep breath and calmed his emotions. He also didn't expect that his suggestion would cause such a big change. To him, this was a great opportunity, not inferior to Dizang of Goguryeo's epiphany in the slightest. He met the gaze of Dizang of Goguryeo and everyone else, nodding and saying, "Yes." Waves of power of faith flew out from your bodies, and after it was finished, it was as if I was enlightened, merging into my body and mind, resulting in this change. My godhood is forming bit by bit. Godhood? Everyone was puzzled. It was the first time they heard this term. Tang Zheng explained, "This is also something that I comprehended after fusing with the power of faith just now. Godhood is the most important thing to a god race, just like a human's heart, related to the life and death of a god race, as well as the strength of a god race. So that's how it was. Everyone looked as if they had suddenly understood. Godhood is related to the life and death of a god race. You're saying that the god race can also die? Dizang of Goguryu's fiery eyes directly pointed out the key point. The god race can also die? Everyone's spirits were shaken, and their eyes lit up. If this was true, then the god race was not scary. As long as they could die, then there was a way to make them die, and also a way to defeat the god race. Tang Jing nodded his head. This was what he had comprehended after fusing with the power of faith. He said with certainty, yes, the god race is indeed powerful. The lifespan of the god race is almost immortal, but the god race can also be killed. The god race can also fall, just like mortals. It's just not that easy. These words were like a cardiac stimulant that was quickly, fiercely, and accurately injected into the hearts of everyone, stimulating the unyielding will and high fighting spirit in their hearts. Facing the crowd, Tang Jing decided to share what he had just comprehended. The Godhead is condensed bit by bit, and when the Godhead is fully condensed, it will be the day of the celestial race's ascension. The heavenly Tao must have also condensed a portion of the divine deity, but it did not truly succeed, so it gave up halfway. The power of faith helps me condense the Godhead, which is the key to helping me become a god. Everyone gradually understood. The Emperor of Heaven said impatiently, then what are we waiting for? Let's build the altar, mold the golden body, and quickly help you condense the divinity and become a god. That's right, that's the most important thing. What's next is our top priority. Now that everyone had reached a consensus, Tang Zheng had nothing to do with it. After experiencing this great battle, the human heart had become more and more fragile, and it was precisely the time when they needed to find spiritual comfort and faith. Thus, when the altars rose from the ground, and the golden bodies stood proudly, countless people came one after another, almost breaking the threshold of the altars. The altars rose like bamboo shoots after the rain in the world's isolation. Not only Huaxia, but all of humanity had built altars. Of course, the altars in the ruins of the Tree of Life were the most majestic and spectacular. The Tree of Life was no longer there, so the altars rose from the ground. Humans believed that the altars could protect the human world and replace the role of the Tree of Life. Not only that, under the command of Dizang of Goguryo, altars also appeared in the ghost realm. Li Xiaotian, as the representative of the ghost realm, was the main force in building the altars in the ghost realm. She was an excellent manager and organizer. The altars in the ghost realm were even more spectacular and majestic than those in the human world. When Tang Jing saw it, even he himself felt a kind of worship and reverence. Of course, the effect was outstanding. The world was safe for the time being. Tang Jing didn't have to run around, and there was a steady stream of faith flying in from all directions at home all day long. After integrating more and more faith, his divinity became more and more stable. This was the most relaxing time for him since he embarked on the road of cultivation. He could accompany his family wholeheartedly. Especially after Fang Shishir became pregnant, this kind of companionship became particularly important. Looking at Fang Shishir's belly growing bigger day by day, the subtle feeling of being a father made him very excited. It was no less wonderful than the feeling of integrating the faith. Fang Shishir's belly was getting bigger and bigger, and the day of childbirth was approaching. This feeling was particularly strong, and there was also a kind of fear and anxiety. Even when facing a strong enemy, or when the world was ending, he didn't have this kind of feeling. However, the peaceful days eventually came to an end. Before he could wait for the child to be born, the news that the Emperor of Heaven had been seriously injured came like a heavy bomb, which made him shocked and angry. The Emperor of Heaven's job now was not only to cultivate, but also to run around between the various altars. Unknowingly, the Emperor of Heaven had been worshipped as the high priest. He was the person with the greatest power and the highest status in the altars, except for Tang Jing, the god. Tang Jing knew about this. After all, the Emperor of Heaven's cultivation was high. If he showed a few miracles, it was enough to convince the world. The Emperor of Heaven ran around the altars and gained a lot. Although he couldn't have an epiphany like the Dizang of Goguryeo and advance to the sage realm, he had a deeper understanding of cultivation. As a result, his cultivation base had soared, and he was already half a step into the saint realm. He only needed one more step before he would be able to achieve great success. It could be said that an expert of this realm had been seriously injured. It was shocking news. This was the human world. Could there be a second person with sage realm cultivation? Impossible. The heavenly Tao had been eliminated, and Yuan Ying's doppelganger had gone to find the God clan. How could there be such an expert? There must be a demon when things are abnormal. Tang Jing realized that the situation had changed, so when he heard the news, he hurried to the altar where the accident happened. This altar was on the ruins of the Tree of Life. Tang Zhang's speed was faster than any plane. With a thought, he disappeared. Not long after, he arrived at the site of the accident. A towering altar stood on top of the ruins. The original appearance of the ruins had been deliberately preserved so that humans could experience the thrilling and tragic battle of that time. There was a tall staircase on the altar that led to the top of the altar. At the top of the staircase was a golden statue of Tang Zheng. It was where people worshipped. As for the tall staircase, it was to test and sharpen people's hearts. When they climbed the long staircase, their reverence and worship for Tang Zheng had risen to the peak. Then, when they worshipped the golden statue, the power of faith gushed out like a torrential river. This was the result of the discussion between Li Shaotian and the Emperor of Heaven, but the effect was good. Chapter 1833. In a flash, Tang Zheng had already reached the top of the altar. It was a mess, clearly a sign of the aftermath of a great battle. The most important thing was that his tall golden body seemed to have been carved by knives and axes, leaving many deep and shallow gullies. It was unknown what kind of magical weapon had injured him. This place had already become empty, except for a person on the ground. Emperor of Heaven. He was lying on the ground, dying. His eyes were dim and his breath was weak. It was obvious that he had suffered heavy injuries. Emperor of Heaven also saw Tang Zheng. He raised his eyelids with difficulty and weakly shouted, "Tang Zheng." Tang Zheng's face was as calm as water. He put his finger on Emperor of Heaven's shoulder. Immediately, his body's condition appeared in his mind like a direct image. What a heavy injury. Tang Zheng did not expect that Emperor of Heaven would be injured so heavily. How strong was the enemy? His gaze subconsciously looked around, trying to find traces of the enemy. He's gone. The celestial Arch sighed as he guessed his thoughts. Who injured you? Emperor of Heaven shook his head. I don't know either. Huh? Tang Zheng stared at him with a burning gaze. He understood and asked, You don't know either? Yes, a mysterious person who came and went without a trace suddenly appeared on the altar. Tang Zheng's heart thumped. There must be a demon behind this abnormal matter. This matter was thought-provoking and unusual. I'll heal you first. Tang Zheng did not ask any more questions. A majestic power surged into Emperor of Heaven's body like a torrential river. Immediately, his originally withered body quickly filled up. The damaged meridians and bones were repaired little by little. After a while, Emperor of Heaven's eyes were filled with vitality again. Tang Zheng stopped. Tang Zheng, I'm really useless. Emperor of Heaven said with annoyance. Tang Zheng waved his hand and asked, Tell me the whole story in detail. The Emperor of Heaven nodded and began to explain the sequence of events in detail. As the High Priest, one of the daily tasks of the Emperor of Heaven was to patrol the various altars. Coincidentally, he was patrolling the area today. He saw that there was a person on the altar whose whereabouts were very strange. He stepped forward to find out what was going on, but before he could say anything, the other party suddenly attacked. With the cultivation of the Emperor of Heaven, even if the enemy suddenly attacked, they would not be able to hurt him. However, there was an exception this time. The Emperor of Heaven fought back, but he was still heavily injured. He couldn't fight back at all. It was like a baby facing an adult. This feeling made the Emperor of Heaven feel a great sense of defeat. It turned out that he had cultivated his entire life, but in the end, he was so weak that he couldn't even withstand a single blow. After hearing this, Tang Jing frowned and asked, based on your senses, what is this person's cultivation? The Emperor of Heaven hesitated and said, in any case, it's higher than me. Could it be the Saint Realm? Saint Realm? Tang Jing hesitated and finally shook his head. Maybe not. What? Not the Saint Realm? The Emperor of Heaven's mind exploded as a chilling thought appeared. He stammered, if he's not the Saint Realm, could it be the God race? God race. These two words were like a heavy bomb that exploded in the air. It stirred up people's hearts and made them sway, unable to calm down for a long time. Tang Jing let out a long sigh. This was the situation he didn't want to see the most, but it still happened. A pressure as heavy as Mount Tai hit him in the face, making his mood particularly heavy. The Emperor of Heaven stared at him without blinking, wanting to get a definite answer from him. No matter what the other party's cultivation is, in short, big trouble is coming. Tang Jing wasn't sure and could only say so. The Emperor of Heaven's temples throbbed fiercely. Although Tang Jing said it clearly, it was most likely the same as his guess. The Emperor of Heaven nodded heavily and asked, then what do we do next? Tang Jing's eyes flashed. Find him. No matter who he is, he hurt you. I must find him and settle this account. Yes, I'll give the order. I remember that person's appearance. Now that your believers are all over the world, it's equivalent to an inescapable net. I don't believe he can hide. The Emperor of Heaven said with certainty. After you find him, don't act rashly. Understood. The Celestial Emperor hesitated for a moment before asking, when did you cross that threshold? What threshold? Of course, it was the God race. Tang Jing had fused with the power of faith and advanced to the God race. Everyone had spent so much effort to build altars and golden bodies all over the world. Wasn't it all for Tang Jing to advance to the God race? Tang Jing understood and said, this matter can't be done overnight. So, the road ahead is long and you still need to work hard. The Emperor of Heaven wasn't discouraged at all. Instead, he was full of fighting spirit and said, at worst, we'll build more altars and golden bodies. I don't believe that you can't advance to the God race with the power of the world. The Emperor of Heaven's conviction became more and more firm. Tang Jing didn't object. His gaze fell on the wounds on the golden body and said, I'll go first. The Emperor of Heaven saw that his mind was fluctuating and advised, don't panic. Even if you really are a God race, it's not scary. Tang Jing squeezed out a smile and said, I won't panic. Don't worry. In the following days, Tang Jing ran all over the world, searching for traces of the mysterious master. But the other party seemed to have disappeared from the world and there was no more news. A question lingered in Tang Jing's mind, was the other party a God race? If he was a God race, why would he come to the human world? The God race had disappeared for so many years. Why would they suddenly visit? Was it because of Yuan Ying's doppelganger? There could only be one reason. It must be that Yuan Ying's doppelganger found the God race and then something happened. That was why the God race followed the clues and visited the human world. But Yuan Ying's doppelganger had already left. Tang Jing couldn't confront him and figure out the reason. He could only sigh. Yuan Ying's doppelganger, if you don't stop, don't harm the human world. This incident was like a small episode. It didn't disturb the human world. Instead, more and more altars sprang up like bamboo shoots after the rain. On the contrary, the world of spirits and souls ushered in a crisis. It was just that no one noticed. As the world of spirits and souls, Li Xiaotian could move freely between the human world and the world of spirits and souls. She cultivated the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Her comprehension was excellent, so she had several epiphanies and gained a lot. Now, she could be considered a real master. Since building the altars in the world of spirits and souls, she was so busy that her feet didn't touch the ground. There was only one thought in her mind, and that was to let Tang Jing ascend to the god race as soon as possible. Because, that was the man she loved. She was supervising the construction of a new altar. Suddenly, she saw a new figure on the scene. This person was out of place with the surrounding environment. Because this was the world of spirits and souls, it was lifeless. But this person was full of vitality, as dazzling as the sun in the darkness. A living person actually appeared in the world of spirits and souls. How could Li Xiaotian not be surprised? After all, this person wasn't like her, a world of spirits and souls walker who could come and go freely in the world of spirits and souls. Who was this person? Chapter 1834. Li Xiaotian stopped a step away from the stranger and sized him up. She could confirm that he was a living person. She had been busy with the ghost festival and did not know that the Emperor of Heaven had been attacked. Who are you? The other party did not pay any attention to Li Xiaotian and she could not help but ask. Hearing her voice, the other party looked up and asked, "Are you in charge of this place?" "Yes." "A mere mortal dares to build an altar and receive worship," the other party said with disdain. That kind of arrogance and disdain came from his bones. Li Xiaotian frowned, knowing that this person did not come with good intentions. Tang Zheng was her beloved man and this person dared to slander him. Her heart was filled with anger. That is because he made a corresponding contribution and saved the world. Naturally, he would receive worship. This comes from the bottom of everyone's heart. Li Xiaotian explained. Saying so much, aren't you still immortal? The other party said disdainfully. Li Xiaotian's two delicate eyebrows were completely twisted together. This person repeatedly mentioned mortals as if he was not a mortal but a high and mighty god. This made her even angrier and she angrily said, "Others are mortals, are you a god? You dare to boast so shamelessly." The person raised his head high and looked down at Li Xiaotian, saying resolutely, "I am a god." What? Li Xiaotian pricked up her ears, thinking that she had misheard. She tried to recall and confirmed that she had not heard wrong. Immediately, she was stunned. She looked at this person in disbelief and stammered, "You are a god?" The person did not say anything, but his arrogant appearance said everything. He had tacitly agreed. Hiss. Li Xiaotian sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at this person in shock. She was so scared that she took a step back. Li Xiaotian's courage was big, but she was still scared to the point of taking a step back. It could be seen how shocked she was. This person did not care about Li Xiaotian's reaction at all. He seemed to be lost in his memories and said, "Humans were created by us, but they actually dared to dream of ascending the altar. Hee, how bold. What is a god? They are high and mighty, and humans can only worship them, not replace them and join the camp of God." His gaze landed on the divine altar and he said, "This divine altar is treason and heresy, what is the need for it to exist?" Whoosh. He waved a hand through the air, and the divine altar collapsed with a resounding boom. A series of anguished howls rang out as countless netherworldly citizens were crushed under the rubble. Li Xiaotian shouted, "What are you doing?" She recklessly attacked the other party. Although she knew that the other party was a god and she was definitely no match for him, he was destroying the great cause of her beloved. No matter what, she couldn't sit back and do nothing. In the past, when she faced such a strong enemy, she would definitely run away at the first opportunity. She wouldn't try to hit a rock with an egg. Now, she was completely different. In addition, there were so many beings of the ghost world who worshipped Tang Zheng from the bottom of their hearts. She couldn't abandon them. If she really left, then she would not only destroy her own reputation. To be honest, she didn't care what others thought of her, nor did she care about her reputation. She only cared about one person. Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's reputation was more important than her life. She couldn't let the faith in the hearts of the netherworldly citizens collapse. The other party stretched out his hand and grabbed her gently. Li Xiaotian couldn't move. She flew up high like a kite and was suspended in the air. What kind of divine altar is this? It's more like an altar. You can just be a sacrifice. Li Xiaotian struggled with all her might, but it was to no avail. She slowly flew above the ruins of the divine altar. The beings of the ghost world looked at this scene and seemed to have forgotten their pain. They forgot to scream as they realized what was about to happen. Li Xiaotian's life was at stake. Li Xiaotian felt the blood in her body speed up as a vigorous energy flowed through her meridians. This was not her energy, but an external force. This external force would crush every single one of her blood vessels and meridians. She would explode. She looked up in despair at the dark sky as if she wanted to see through the barrier of space and see her beloved Tangjing again. My love, farewell. We'll meet again in the next life. I'll be your love again. Her eyes gradually became firm. There was no fear. Instead, there was a strong confidence and a little madness. She stared straight at the other party and said, "You said that mortals can't become gods. Let me tell you, you're wrong. Facts will prove you wrong. Gods aren't always high and mighty. Mortals can become gods too. Because we're humans, everything is possible." This seemed to be her final declaration. It cleansed the hearts of the people and echoed in the hearts of the beings of the ghost world. It was like the sound of Sanskrit, enlightening even the deaf. At this moment, her image in everyone's mind changed drastically. She was incomparably tall and mighty. Even if she was controlled by others and her life was at stake, it couldn't change this. Little bits of golden light floated from her body. Lines of Sanskrit flew up from the top of her head. Bursts of Sanskrit fell from the sky and shrouded the ruins of the divine altar. Li Xiaotian cultivated the Ksitigarbha Sutra and improved very quickly. Of course, she couldn't compare to Tang Zheng and the Dizang of Goguryeo. But she was much more powerful than other beings of the ghost world. The Dizang of Goguryeo had already spread the Ksitigarbha Sutra throughout the ghost world. Every resident of the ghost world could cultivate and comprehend the Ksitigarbha Sutra. They were all affected. Their minds were undistracted as they chanted Sanskrit. It echoed the Sanskrit that fell from the sky. The world turned golden. There was no longer the cold and terrifying aura of the ghost world. There was only a solemn warmth. Huh? The person looked at Li Xiaotian in surprise and said, "Strange, you can still break through at this point. What kind of technique is this?" No one answered him. Li Xiaotian also felt the change in herself. She had an epiphany. This kind of opportunity could only be encountered and not sought. She had an epiphany at the moment of life and death. However, it didn't have much effect. The other party was a god. Her epiphany wasn't his match. She still enjoyed this kind of epiphany very much. This proved her strength, and also proved that the principle she firmly believed in was not wrong. Humans could become gods. Humans were not afraid of heaven, earth, and of course, gods. Even if you don't tell me, I will find a way to find out. To be honest, the fact that humans can create such a technique is really beyond my expectations. The technique that the God clan left for you was already considered an extreme technique. You can still break through and create new techniques. His tone changed and became incomparably cold. But what's the use of this? You're still a mere mortal. After the person expressed his surprise, he returned to normal. He didn't put Li Xiaotian in his eyes and slowly retracted his fingers. Great pain came from all over her body. Li Xiaotian knew that her time was up, but she still smiled and muttered to herself, "Ninth grade Mahayana. I didn't expect to reach this realm before I die. I can die in peace." Crack, crack, crack. Her bones cracked and her meridians ruptured. Blood was seeping out from her skin. In a short while, she became a bloody person. But there was still a smile at the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were bright like spring. Chapter 1835. Li Xiaotian was on the verge of death. As she was dying, she saw a figure in the dark horizon. Golden light bloomed, and this person was like a golden man. Heaven and earth were bathed in golden light, dispelling the darkness of the ghost realm. It made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze, and their hearts were clear. A burst of Sanskrit fell from the sky. The sound was clear and pleasant, making people feel relaxed and happy. The god clan also noticed this. He slowly turned his head and looked over casually. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. Not only humans, but even the ghost realm has such a big change. There's actually such a master. The god clan exclaimed, and there was a strange light in his eyes. Dizang of Goguryeo is the lord of the ghost realm. You are stirring up trouble in the ghost realm. How can the Dizang of Goguryeo allow you to do whatever you want? Li Xiaotian used the last of her strength to say. Dizang of Goguryeo. The god clan repeated it a few times, and there was a suspicious look in his eyes. He said, "Isn't the lord of the ghost realm one of the 10 Yama kings? How did it become the Dizang of Goguryeo?" Obviously, the god clan knew the ghost realm very well, but that was all history. The god clan was still in the dark about the current situation of the ghost realm. Li Xiaotian sneered and did not comment, but the mocking look in her eyes was enough to explain everything. The god clan was looked down upon, and he was furious. He said, "So what if it's the Dizang of Goguryeo? Isn't he just like an ant? What can he do?" He did not put Kitagarbha Bodhisattva in his eyes at all. Naturally, he did not know about Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's experience. His declaration that he would not become a Buddha until hell was empty shook the deaf and enlightened the deaf, moving all who heard it. You don't believe it? Then I will let you witness his death with your own eyes. At that time, you will know what a real god clan is. The god clan suddenly withdrew his supernatural power. Li Xiaotian softly fell to the ground. With his last breath, he listlessly watched the god clan rise into the sky. Dizang of Goguryeo descended from the sky and locked onto the Protoss. There was such a huge commotion in the ghost realm that even the altars were destroyed. As the lord of the ghost realm, how could he not know? He rushed over without stopping, but he was still a step too late. When he saw Li Xiaotian covered in blood, his heartstrings trembled. There was no doubt about Li Xiaotian's position in Tang Zheng's heart. If anything happened to her, Dizang of Goguryeo, the lord of the world of spirits and souls, would also be blamed. Moreover, Li Xiaotian was the world of spirits and souls traveler, and she was taught by Dizang of Goguryeo. Dizang of Goguryeo had always looked at her in a new light and had a lot of expectations. Naturally, he did not want to see anything happen to her. Who dares to break into the world of spirits and souls to stir up trouble? Dizang of Goguryeo questioned loudly. The god clan stopped in front of Dizang of Goguryeo, looked at him overbearingly, and asked, "You are Dizang of Goguryeo?" "Yes." Dizang of Goguryeo stared at the god clan with bright eyes, trying to find some clues from him. He did not see much useful information, but the mysterious aura of the god clan made his heartstrings tremble. Because this aura was unprecedented, but it was very mysterious and powerful. Dizang of Goguryeo was experienced and knowledgeable, and now that he had the cultivation of the saint realm, he dared to underestimate the god clan. This was an instinctive feeling. Dizang of Goguryeo was very convinced. "Who are you?" Dizang of Goguryeo asked. The god clan smiled coldly, like a cold wind blowing from a world of ice and snow, to freeze people's bodies. "Who am I? I am the lord of this world." The god clan opened his arms and said arrogantly. "The lord of this world?" The Kitagarbha Bodhisattva frowned. Suddenly, an idea popped up in his mind, giving him a fright. Could he be? Dizang of Goguryeo did not dare to continue thinking. Li Xiaotian said weakly, "He is a god clan, our enemy." God clan. These two words were like a bolt from the blue, confirming Dizang of Goguryo's conjecture. The corner of his mouth twitched fiercely, and his eyes widened as he looked at the god clan again. God Clan. Dizang of Goguryeo knew about the God Clan not long ago. He did not expect to see a God Clan standing in front of him so soon. This was too much of a coincidence. If it were not for Tang Zhang's reminder, he would not have known about the existence of the God Clan, let alone the strength of the God Clan. He would not have had an epiphany and advanced to the Saint Realm by chance. The God Clan did not mind revealing his identity. He looked at Dizang of Goguryeo arrogantly and said, "Now you know fear?" Dizang of Goguryeo's eyes gradually became firm, and his whole body shone with golden light. He said, "Fear or not is just a psychological effect. It doesn't mean anything." Twisting words and forcing logic. Then I'll see how strong you are as the Lord of the Ghost Realm. The God Clan smiled contemptuously and flew lightly toward Dizang of Goguryeo. Whoosh! The golden light converged, and a golden lotus grew beneath Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva sat on top of it with his eyes closed. Golden light bloomed from his body, transforming into a golden light shield in front of him. Boom! An invisible force was like a surging tide, directly hitting the golden light. The golden light trembled, and cracks appeared. Crack! Suddenly, the golden light shattered, and the God Clan rushed straight in, directly in front of Dizang of Goguryeo. Dizang of Goguryeo was still as immovable as a mountain, sitting upright on the lotus platform. His fingers moved quickly, and a golden light fell from the sky, with bursts of Sanskrit chants, and fell on the God Clan's head. The God Clan stopped and looked up at the sky. That golden light contained a terrifying power. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the brilliance of the sun and moon. The God Clan flicked his sleeve, and a majestic energy soared into the sky to meet that golden light. With a loud bang, the golden light collapsed. However, the bursts of Sanskrit chants in the sky did not diminish, but became more and more intense. Only this sound was left in the world. At that moment, Dizang of Goguryeo suddenly opened his eyes, and both of his eyes turned golden. A golden kasaya was draped over his body, fluttering in the wind. Dizang of Goguryeo stood with one palm in front of him, chanting the Ksitigarbha Sutra, and finally softly spat out 3 words, Buddha's palm. These 4 words seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, as heavy as Mount Tai. The God Clan did not understand the profound meaning, but when these 4 words were spoken, the aura between heaven and earth had a subtle change. This did not escape the God Clan's senses. His eyes narrowed into thin lines, and he looked around. The change in the aura made him not dare to underestimate it. This change was too magical. He never expected such a change in the ghost realm. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of wind blew down from the 9th heaven, like an angry dragon descending from the sky. The destructive momentum made heaven and earth become dead silent. All the living creatures crawled on the ground, unable to stand up at all. Li Xiaotian lay on the ground tightly, and an instinctive fear rose from the depths of his heart. Li Xiaotian, who was not afraid of anything, was actually scared. This showed how powerful this change was. Between heaven and earth, only 2 figures were still standing upright. Dizang of Goguryeo sat on the lotus throne. The God Clan stood proudly, looking up at the sky. He finally found the source of all these changes, from the 9th heaven, the chaotic sky. A golden light appeared above the 9th heaven, and the golden light fell down at an extremely fast speed, gradually becoming bigger. The God Clan's pupils shrank, and he finally saw clearly that it was a palm. The palm was very small at first, but as it got closer and closer, the palm quickly became bigger. Chapter 1836. When the Buddha's palm fell, everything in the world seemed to be turned into dust. Boom! The ruins of the altar were the first to succumb to this terrifying power. Crack! Huge cracks appeared in the ruins, like pythons, spreading rapidly in all directions. With a loud noise, a huge palm print was imprinted on the altar. In mid-air, the god race fell, a terrifying force pressed him down towards the ruins of the altar. The god race flew into a rage, realizing the power of the Buddha's palm. Was this really an attack from the Mahayana realm? It caused him to lose his mind. A burst of Sanskrit chants attacked his soul, especially the Buddha's palm, which made him feel that it was difficult to resist. However, he was a god race after all. He let out a sharp whistle, rushed into the sky, and faced the Buddha's palm. The Buddha's palm flickered with golden light, and a huge Buddha appeared behind Dizang of Goguryeo. The Buddha's palm seemed to be the hand of the Buddha, lightly patting down. The air exploded, and the clouds were torn into pieces. The beings of the world of spirits and souls had already retreated far away, not daring to get close. The Buddha's palm could easily suppress them, so they did not dare to have any thoughts of being rash. Li Xiaotian escaped from death, and acted according to the situation, retreating to the outermost periphery. She was not afraid of death, she already had the will to die. However, she was not a stupid person, and would not make unnecessary sacrifices. She looked at Dizang of Goguryeo from time to time, and then looked at the god race. Her eyes flashed, and she turned to leave. No one noticed her, and she did not look for a place to escape in the world of spirits and souls. She opened the ghost gate, jumped, and left the world of spirits and souls. Dizang of Goguryeo knew everything in the world of spirits and souls, and from the corner of his eye, he saw what Li Xiaotian did, and a meaningful smile immediately appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then, let me hold off the divines for a while. Dizang of Goguryeo was firm in his conviction. He recited the Kitagarbha Sutra faster and faster. The scriptures fell from the sky like a golden downpour. The celestial finally rushed to the front of the Buddha's palm. With one of his feet facing upwards, he lifted his leg high into the air. The wind changed color, and a violent gale blew. A black cloud floated out of nowhere and turned into a giant foot, colliding with the Buddha's palm. One palm, 1 foot, 1 gold, 1 black, they were clearly separated. In the next second, the sound between heaven and earth disappeared, leaving only 2 balls of light that exploded, shooting out dazzling light in all directions. The ground was riddled with holes, as if it had been hit by a meteor shower. A mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Golden light and black clouds intertwined within it. They soared into the sky as if they were going to break through the 9 heavens. The sound of heaven and earth was restored. The loud rumbling sound impacted everyone's eardrums, causing everyone to cover their ears and look up at the sky in panic. They were looking for Dizang of Goguryeo. Dizang of Goguryeo was the backbone of the world of spirits and souls. As long as he was there, everyone's will would not collapse. Dizang of Goguryeo was still in mid-air, but the golden Buddha behind him had disappeared. Dizang of Goguryeo's eyebrows were lowered, and his palms were clasped together. The specific situation could not be seen clearly. The celestial was still submerged in the mushroom cloud and had yet to appear. Crack. A crack appeared in the mushroom cloud, and the celestial's battered figure rushed out from it. The mushroom cloud rumbled and exploded, turning into airflow that spread all over the sky. The celestial was flustered and exasperated. He was no longer as calm as before. He stared fiercely at Dizang of Goguryeo. He was both angry and fearful. The Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was merely a mortal, yet he was able to successfully contend against him. If he had not put aside his prejudice at the last moment and fought back with all his might, he was afraid that he would have fallen into the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's trap. If he had failed miserably, he did not know how the other clansmen would ridicule him. This would be a stain on his life, and he would never be able to turn over it. Dizang of Goguryeo looked calm. He was not surprised to see the celestial escape. Because the other party was a celestial. Anything was possible. He had comprehended the move, Buddha's palm, which was already rare and valuable. It was a great fortune. But if he wanted to use this move to defeat the celestial, he knew that he was still lacking. Dizang of Goguryeo, what a good move, Buddha's palm, it really opened my eyes. The celestial gritted his teeth and said fiercely. He had long lost his demeanor, and his arrogance was completely defeated by the Buddha's palm. Amitabha. Dizang of Goguryeo chanted the name of Buddha and said regretfully, the Celestial is the Celestial after all. The Celestial raised his head proudly and said triumphantly, "Of course. Do you really want to defeat me with this move? You're dreaming." Why did the Celestial deign to come to the ghost realm? Dizang of Goguryeo seemed to have given up on fighting and asked curiously. If the most powerful, Buddha's palm, could not defeat the other party, what was the point of fighting? The Celestial is naturally in the Celestial realm. As for why we came here, we created all living beings in the human world and the ghost realm. This is our territory, so why can't we come? The Celestial questioned. Dizang of Goguryeo remained calm and collected, but the other beings in the ghost realm heard this for the first time. They were shocked and began to discuss. The Celestial looked down at the beings and said discontentedly, "We have been away from the Celestial realm for too long. You have all forgotten your origins and even dared to fight against the Celestial realm. Now that we are back, you will experience the power of the Celestial realm." Dizang of Goguryeo's heart moved and said, "The Celestial realm lives in the Celestial realm all year round and disdains our world. Why did you come back at this time? Is it because someone broke into the Celestial realm?" The Celestial realm's eyelids twitched a few times as if his thoughts had been exposed. But he immediately returned to normal and laughed disdainfully. "Ha ha ha, nonsense. The Celestial realm is high and mighty. Without the permission of the Celestial realm, who can break into the Celestial realm?" Dizang of Goguryeo's eyes flashed with a golden light as he caught the subtle change of the Celestial realm. He confirmed his guess and said, "Of course, ordinary people can't break into the Celestial realm, but if it's a new Celestial realm, can't it?" The Celestial realm almost blurted out, "How do you know?" But he stopped in time and looked at Dizang of Goguryeo in shock. Dizang of Goguryeo smiled and said, "I'm not wrong, am I?" The Celestial realm's gaze drifted and fell on the ruins of the altar where the big palm was. There was a statue on the altar, and it was a statue of Tangjang. The Celestial realm was no stranger to the person on the statue. That face made the entire Celestial realm furious, and they sent him down to investigate the cause and effect. When he arrived in the human world, he saw the altar and the statue. He thought he understood the cause and effect. The guy who broke into the Celestial realm merged the power of faith of the human world and the ghost world, and then broke through the gap between the human world and the Celestial realm. The people in the human world and the ghost world were accomplices of that guy. So, the Celestial realm didn't ask any more questions. He directly started a massacre and destroyed the altar. The Celestial realm didn't know that the guy who broke into the Celestial realm was Tangjang's Yuanying doppelganger, and Tangjang who absorbed the power of faith of the people was not Yuanying's doppelganger. The Celestial realm hesitated for a long time. Since Dizang of Goguryeo knew so much, why not open a gap from him? Maybe he could fill in the details of the cause and effect and really restore the truth. Chapter 1837. The giant statue behind the divine being was solemn and dignified, like an incomparably tall and majestic mountain, suppressing everyone's hearts. Statue of God. Dizang of Goguryeo was shocked and seemed to have understood something. The reason why the divine race was called the divine race was probably related to that statue of God. Dizang of Goguryeo guessed correctly. The divine race could activate the power of God and create their own statue of God. Its pressure was unparalleled, and no one below the divine race could shake or go against it. This was what the Protoss relied on, and what gave them the right to be high and mighty. Bang bang bang. Everyone in the ghost world knelt down in front of the statue of God. When the divine race did not activate the statue of God, they could still resist the supreme pressure, but once the statue appeared, no one could resist it. Dizang of Goguryeo chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra, and golden light shone from his body. A golden light rose behind him and turned into a giant Buddha, like a statue of God. The divine race looked at it in disdain and said, "How can this be compared to the divine skills of the divine race? Break!" The divine race roared, and it was like rolling thunder from the 9 heavens. The statue moved and grabbed at the giant Buddha statue. Its speed was not fast, but its divine power was invincible. Dizang of Goguryeo felt his body tighten, as if his internal organs and bones were about to be crushed by this power. Crack, crack, crack. The giant Buddha statue made a series of crisp sounds, as if it was about to fall apart and disintegrate. Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva activated the Kshitigarbha Sutra with all his might. Lines of Sanskrit flew out from his mouth and transformed into a golden kasaya that fluttered in the air and draped itself over the Buddha statue. The giant Buddha statue shone with golden light, and the cracking sounds disappeared. It moved its muscles and bones, and flew out from behind Dizang of Goguryeo, and slapped the statue with its huge palm. Buddha's palm. The power of this palm was not inferior to the previous one, and it made people hold their breaths in awe. Break. The divine race roared again, and the statue waved its fist, one fist and one palm, colliding with each other. In an instant, there was only this palm and fist left in the world, and nothing else. Everyone felt insignificant, as if they were nothing but air, insignificant. Poof. Poof. Countless beings of the ghost world coughed up blood and fell to the ground, dying. Boom. A burst of golden light shot up into the sky, and the great Buddha statue disappeared. The statue had become much fainter, but it still stood proudly. Puff. Dizang of Goguryeo also spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at the statue in horror and despair. Since the great Buddha statue was unable to contend against the god statue, they had completely lost their support in this battle. Defeated. Dizang of Goguryeo's eyes dimmed. He had intended to compete with the gods, but now it seemed that he was only in the Mahayana realm and could not fight against the true gods. The Celestial was proud of himself as he flew towards Dizang of Goguryeo. The statue of the Celestial was following closely behind. The pressure was as heavy as a mountain. Boom. Boom. The ground caved in, unable to bear the pressure of the divine statue. Many beings of the ghost world were turned into meat patties. It was a mess and incomparably miserable. Dizang of Goguryeo was helpless. He could only put his hands together and chant sutras to release these innocent souls. The Celestial looked down at Dizang of Goguryeo from above and said, "Mortals must have their own awareness. Without awareness, only death awaits." Dizang of Goguryeo smiled and said, "Mortals can also become gods. Someone has already done this. It's useless for you to deny it. The days of the gods have come to an end. You're courting death." The Celestial flew into a rage and struck out with his palm. Before his palm even reached Dizang of Goguryeo, he was already like a kite with a broken string. His chest caved in as he flew into the distance and landed in the ruins. The Celestial said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "That black sheep that sneaked into the Celestial army, we will definitely cut him into 8 pieces and burn his bones to ashes." This was a tacit acknowledgement of Dizang of Goguryeo's words. Dizang of Goguryeo smiled with relief, completely forgetting the pain all over his body. Tang Zheng's Yuanying doppelganger really did go to the Celestial realm and gave the Celestial realm a headache. "Ha ha ha, Tang Zheng, you really helped us vent our anger." Dizang of Goguryeo laughed. The Celestial was stunned and asked, "Tang Zheng is that guy? You seem to be very familiar with him. Tell me everything you know." The Celestial had always wanted to know the ins and outs of the matter. Hearing Dizang of Goguryeo mention it, he naturally couldn't wait to ask clearly. "Aren't you a god? Why ask me? Find out for yourself." Dizang of Goguryeo ridiculed. The Celestial was unable to restrain his anger. "You dare to hide it from the Celestial race? Let's see how you can hide it." He pretended to grab Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva, but the statue behind him decisively grabbed Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva firmly in the palm of its hand. Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva's golden light flashed, and then he stopped. Dizang of Goguryeo was originally injured and had fallen into the hands of the statue. Naturally, he couldn't resist. But Dizang of Goguryeo's expression was serene. He ignored the immense pain and said, "It's useless even if you kill me. I won't kill you. I'll squeeze every bit of information from your brain." Originally, I disdained to do such a thing. Absorbing your information is simply a stain on the gods. But now, I don't mind doing so. The 5 fingers of the statue clasped Dizang of Goguryu's head and drilled into his brain like an electric drill. Countless information was transmitted from the statue's fingertips. The celestial closed his eyes and continuously absorbed Dizang of Goguryu's information. Dizang of Goguryu guarded his mind and tried to resist, but in the end, he found that it was futile. In front of the celestial race, how can mortals have any secrets to speak of? We created you, and you are all defenseless against us. The celestial race was proud. The beings of the world of spirits and souls trembled and didn't dare to come forward. In front of the statue, they were like ants crawling on the ground. They didn't have the courage or ability to resist. Dizang of Goguryu had no choice but to recite the scriptures. The gods are high and mighty, but they don't treat human lives as lives. Instead, they cause misery and suffering in the world. Is this what a god is? Then I'm going to be a god slayer. Suddenly, a voice floated down from the sky and resounded throughout the world of spirits and souls. When the beings of the world of spirits and souls heard this voice, they relaxed and the fear and trembling reduced a lot. Dizang of Goguryu's eyes were filled with joy as he looked up. You're finally here. The celestial race suddenly opened his eyes. He was very familiar with this voice, and it ignited the anger in his chest. He looked up and his eyes seemed to be spitting fire. There was a trace of panic in them. Why are you here? The celestial race gritted his teeth and asked. Tang Zheng came very quickly and landed on top of the statue in the blink of an eye. He said, why can't I be here? You actually came from the world of gods. Who leaked the news? The celestial race was surprised and asked. Huh? Tang Zheng was stunned for a while and didn't understand what was going on. Dizang of Goguryu's heart was as clear as a mirror. The celestial race misunderstood. He mistakenly thought that Tang Zheng was Yuanying's doppelganger and thought that Yuanying's doppelganger came from the world of gods to deal with him. As for Tang Zheng being in the Mahayana realm, the celestial race didn't recognize him. It was because the celestial race was unpredictable and could change into any level of cultivation. It couldn't be judged by the naked eye at all. Seeing that Tang Zheng refused to answer, the celestial race said angrily, the celestial race is high and mighty, and you still want to kill a god. What awaits you is only death. Having said that, the celestial race saw that Tang Zheng actually came from the world of gods to kill him, which meant that the situation in the world of gods was not optimistic. So many celestials couldn't stop him. Could he really stop him? Chapter 1838. Tang Zheng looked at the enraged celestial and smiled. Your mind is in chaos, you are destined to die. The celestial was even more confused. Now that his opponent had seen through his mind, he had no chance of winning. How would he know that his opponent was not the one who broke into the celestial realm, but the real body of that person? Tang Zheng decided not to give him a chance to understand. He raised his arm and the sword of hidden mystic flew out from his back. The sword ray soared into the sky and lit up the dark world of spirits. All the living beings in the world of spirits looked up at this scene and their minds were in turmoil. Many of the believers directly bowed down and were extremely pious. Waves of power of faith rose and floated straight to Tang Zheng. The celestial's pupils shrunk as he witnessed Tang Zheng absorbing the power of faith with his own eyes. He no longer doubted his opponent's identity and completely believed that Tang Zheng was the one who broke into the celestial realm. Treacherous. The celestial roared as a huge statue rose from behind and floated in mid-air, overlooking all living beings. Tang Zheng was extremely small in front of the statue. He looked up at the statue and his heart skipped a beat. Was this the supernatural power of the celestial? He would like to see it for himself. Whoosh! The sword of hidden mystic fell from the sky and pierced through the heaven and earth. The heaven and earth seemed to be divided into two by this sword and slashed towards the high and mighty statue. The statue closed its palms and firmly sandwiched the sword ray in the middle. In an instant, the sword ray contracted from all directions and merged into the sword ray. The sword ray was blazing like a dazzling light that flew out from the gaps of the fingers. Puff, 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 the air was cut into pieces. At the same time, Tang Zheng put his palms together and chanted the Kitagarbha Sutra. Golden Sanskrit flew out from his mouth and turned into a golden kasaya. Golden lotuses appeared under his feet. He walked on the lotuses and in a blink of an eye, he was in front of the statue. The celestial stood in front of the statue and faced Tang Zheng. He said, "You have the same supernatural power as him." "Yes, of the same origin, each has its own merits," Tang Zheng said truthfully. Since he had broken through Dizang of Goguryu's divine art, he could naturally break through Tang Zheng's divine art as well. After all, these divine arts were of the same origin, so he could follow the pattern and find the flaw. "Ha ha ha, then you will definitely lose." The celestial laughed maniacally, his confidence skyrocketing. The statues also grinned and connected with the celestial. They looked at Tang Zheng condescendingly as if they were looking at an ant. Tang Zheng didn't mind it and continued to chant the Kitagarbha Sutra. Golden light flowed on the golden kasaya and it grew longer with the wind. Tang Zheng's body also grew taller at the same time. In just a few moments, he was already several meters tall. He was even taller than the god race, and he was looking down at the god race. Seeing this scene, the divine race was greatly shaken. He asked, "How did you do it? Don't you have the same supernatural power as Dizang of Goguryeo?" Tang Zheng did not reply. The power of faith from all directions fused into his body. He had comprehended something in his heart, and this change occurred. In the unseen world, he felt that he was taking a step towards that critical juncture. He thought that he would be afraid when he saw the celestial race, but when he really saw the celestial race, it was the celestial race's divine heart that was in chaos. The celestial race saw Tang Zheng getting taller and taller, and that mysterious aura made him more and more terrified. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "No matter how many supernatural powers you have, in front of me, there is only one path, death." Boom! The statue put its hands together, and the sword ray shattered. The Xuanzang sword fell from the sky. Tang Zheng didn't care about it, he was focused on nothing. In the ghost realm, more and more people were kneeling in front of him, and the surging power of faith flew out from their bodies. Boom! A whirlpool appeared on top of Tang Zheng's head. It was a whirlpool formed by the power of faith, and it spun at high speed. The power of faith fell from the whirlpool, and it turned into a pillar of light, and fell into the top of Tang Zheng's head. Boom! A loud sound came from his mind, and then, from head to toe, all the joints in his body made a similar loud sound. His body rose, and in an instant, he became a real giant. Golden light filled the sky, and he was even taller than the statue. God's fist. The celestial race felt an unprecedented pressure. It was like a stormy sea that wanted to smash him to death on the reef. He resisted with all his might. The statue punched out, and the wind swept away the clouds. Bursts of thunder came from the sky. A bolt of lightning appeared on the god's fist, and lightning also appeared around the statue. The statue's aura was raised to a new extreme. Boom! The statue's fist appeared in front of Tang Zheng, and Tang Zheng slowly raised his palm in front of him. The god's fist hit the palm, and the palm became bigger and bigger. He turned his hand and slammed it down. Golden light poured down from the palm, like the water of the Milky Way falling from the ninth heaven, and drowned the god's fist. The golden light was endless, and it drowned the statue's arm, and slowly spread to the statue's body. The celestial race was shocked, and he screamed, "How is this possible? This is the life deity statue that I cultivated, and it's a special ability of the celestial race. How can I lose?" The celestial race, who cultivated the life deity statue, was the symbol of the celestial race. The greatest ability of the celestial race was hidden in the life deity statue. But at this moment, the celestial race found that his life deity statue seemed to be out of his control. This was unprecedented. It indicated that his life deity statue might fall apart. Once his natal idol was destroyed, he would have no choice but to die. Is this golden Buddha your life deity statue? The celestial race looked at the indomitable golden Buddha that was like a towering mountain, and muttered to himself. Tang Zheng had already guessed this, and he shook his head. Wrong, it's not my life deity statue. This is Tathagata's golden body, another voice shouted excitedly. Dizang of Goguryeo looked up at the golden Buddha. The golden Buddha and Tang Zheng had merged into one, and it was completely different from the life deity statue of the celestial race. This was a realm that he had never reached. He had only cultivated Tathagata's divine palm, but Tang Zheng had cultivated Tathagata's golden body. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Tathagata's divine palm was only a part of Tathagata's golden body, so how could it be compared to this golden body? Amitba, Tang Zheng really has great wisdom, far surpassing mine. Dizang of Goguryeo put his palms together, deeply moved. Tang Zheng lowered his head and looked at Dizang of Goguryeo, and said, yes, this is Tathagata's golden body, and it comes from the same origin as Dizang of Goguryeo's supernatural power. The Ksitagarbha Sutra is broad and profound, far beyond what you celestial race can imagine. The celestial race's eyes were in chaos, and he gritted his teeth, saying, what Tathagata's golden body? Since it's not the life deity statue, then everything is useless. The celestial race's confidence increased greatly. The power of faith between heaven and earth had all merged into Tang Zheng's body, and his aura had undergone a tremendous change. He looked at the celestial race and said, is the life deity statue really so amazing? You're a celestial race, yet you don't know the greatness of the life deity statue. The celestial race seemed to have heard the funniest joke, and he laughed wildly. Chapter 1839. Hearing the god race's question, Tang Zheng was also shocked. Yuan Ying's avatar actually did not have a natal idol. Wasn't he a god race member? Why was he so different from the other god race members? Seeing Tang Zheng not say a word, the god race member's gaze fluctuated. He sized up Tang Zheng and gradually frowned. The more he looked, the more he felt that there was a problem. Other than your appearance, you seem to be different from that guy in the rumors, the god race member muttered to himself. Tang Zheng's heart trembled. The god race member's fiery eyes gradually saw the problem. Suddenly, a light flashed through the god race member's mind. A bold idea floated. He shouted in disbelief, you are not him. Tang Zheng sighed faintly and said, you still saw through me. Dizang of Goguryeo's heart tightened. The god race had mistaken him for someone else. His mind was in turmoil, and this gave Tang Zheng a great opportunity. Once the god race saw through this, he would no longer fear Tang Zheng. Instead, his confidence would increase greatly. Then Tang Zheng's advantage would disappear. Tang Zheng. Dizang of Goguryeo blurted out, wanting to stop Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng acted as if he did not see and said to the god race member, I thought you would be blind forever. The god race member flew into a rage. Tang Zheng dared to say that he was blind. He clenched his fists and roared, if you are not him, then you are an impostor. I can easily kill you. You dare to play with me, I promise you will die miserably. Dizang of Goguryeo sighed regretfully. At this point, Tang Zheng was in danger. Tang Zheng did not seem to realize this at all. He said jokingly to the god race member, you are so confident. Of course. Haha. Tang Zheng laughed softly. Your confidence came too late. If you saw through it earlier, then you might have a chance to live. But now, you don't even have a chance. I don't have a chance. The Protoss pointed at the tip of his nose as if he had heard the funniest joke and said, that should be what I said to you. You still don't understand. Tang Zheng shook his head and said, the battle situation is constantly changing. You've already missed your best opportunity, so you won't have another chance. Dizang of Goguryeo seemed to be deep in thought as he carefully observed Tang Zheng. Finally, his eyes flashed and he could no longer tear his gaze away from Tang Zheng. He said in bewilderment, "You succeeded?" Tang Zheng looked at Dizang of Goguryeo with a smile and said, "Dizang of Goguryeo, your foresight is much better than this divine race. I have indeed succeeded in crossing that threshold. You've become a god." Dizang of Goguryeo was surprised and happy. He stared at Tang Zheng with shining eyes, not willing to miss a single detail. Tang Zheng had become a god right under his nose, but he was completely unaware. Not only that, even the Protoss didn't notice. Was this Protoss really blind? The Protoss seemed to have woken up from a dream. He pointed at Tang Zheng and shook his head. "Impossible, you've just become a god. Weren't you a god a long time ago? What's going on? You've just become a god, so who's the other person?" The Protoss muttered to himself as if he had been possessed. He looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated gaze that couldn't be described with words. "He's my Yuanying doppelganger," Tang Zheng said indifferently. Yuanying doppelganger? The Protoss was dazed and doubted that he had heard wrong. He said, "Yuanying's doppelganger is so weak, but he can cultivate to become a god. Moreover, he's faster than your main body. You should find a better excuse to lie to me." Obviously, he didn't believe it at all. Tang Zheng helplessly rolled his eyes and said, "Now that things have come to this, do I still need to lie to you?" After a pause, Tang Zheng asked curiously, "You said that Yuanying's doppelganger is very weak. Then what about the Yuanying doppelganger of your Protoss race? How could the human race have such a weak existence as Yuanying's doppelganger? Our life idol can completely crush Yuanying's doppelganger." The Protoss proudly boasted. "The Protoss race doesn't have a Yuanying doppelganger." Tang Zheng suddenly realized, the Protoss race is very different from what I imagined. The Protoss race's strength is not something you can imagine. The Protoss said disdainfully. Tang Zheng shook his head and said, "There's a problem with this. Let me think about it carefully." Tang Zheng rubbed his temples and carefully thought about it. He didn't take the Protoss race seriously at all. The Protoss flew into a rage. This was completely ignoring his existence. He had never received such a serious provocation before. He pointed at Tang Zheng, his finger trembling in anger as he shouted, "You're not only looking down on me, you're also looking down on the Protoss race." Protoss race? Tang Zheng suddenly slapped his head in realization and said, "I finally understand. The Protoss race and the gods are two different concepts. The Protoss race is the gods." The Protoss hysterically retorted, "Your words are disgraceful. I will definitely burn your bones and scatter your ashes." Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear and muttered to himself, the Protoss race created the human race and called themselves gods. In reality, they are just a race. They are just stronger than the human race, or rather, their starting point is higher than the human race. That's why they are stronger than the human race. The Protoss race's eyes became more and more frantic as he shouted, "Disgraceful, disgraceful." Dizang of Goguryeo heard a bit of mystery from these words. It was as if a ball of light had lit up in his heart, illuminating every corner of his body. He said thoughtfully, "I understand. The Protoss race is just a race. They are not true gods. They can still be defeated and killed." Tang Zheng looked at Dizang of Goguryeo with approval and said, "You're right. So, what's so scary about the Protoss race? They call themselves gods. Then we will slaughter them. We will kill them until they throw away their armor and lower their proud heads." Dizang of Goguryo's emotions surged. He said with pride, "A real man should be like this." The Protoss race had forgotten to shout. He stared blankly at Tang Zheng and Dizang of Goguryeo. He didn't know how to describe his feelings. The Protoss race had always called themselves gods. Could it be that they were really just a race that was slightly more powerful? His heart was shaken. But he immediately shook his head and suppressed this absurd thought. He said, "No, the Protoss race is a god. It's not just a race. His eyes gradually became firm. He looked at Tang Jing gloomily and reprimanded, "You're talking nonsense. You want to shake my god's heart. Let me tell you, you've failed. I'm going to kill you now." He did not give Tang Jing another chance to speak. His natal idol rose into the air and flew into the air. His big hand grabbed the air and black clouds gathered. A silver lightning bolt drilled out of the black clouds and fell into the hand of the natal idol. The lightning bolt turned into a long whip and fell from the sky, ruthlessly lashing at Tang Jing. Heaven and earth were split into two by this lightning whip. Boom! The earth split open and a bottomless ravine appeared. Arcs of lightning flickered in the ravine, emitting terrifying power. Tang Jing stood under the lightning whip. He raised his head and the lightning whip rapidly expanded in his eyes. It grew bigger and closer. The Protoss race's eyes were filled with ecstasy. This attack consumed 80% of his power in order to kill in one blow. If it failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. No. It would definitely succeed. Seeing that the lightning whip had already reached Tang Jing's head, Tang Jing seemed to be suppressed by this violent aura and couldn't fight back. He was dumbstruck. Chapter 1840. In the blink of an eye, Tang Jing moved. He raised his hand and grabbed lightly. Bang! Lightning flashed and crackled like thunder. The lightning seemed to want to drown Tang Jing. However, Tang Jing's body was full of golden light, and the sound of Sanskrit rushed into the sky to meet the lightning whip. Boom! The golden light collided with the lightning, and the lightning broke inch by inch and fell from the sky. The golden light rushed into the black clouds, and the black clouds rolled and dissipated into nothingness. Heaven and earth were bright again. The lightning in Tang Jing's hand became smaller and smaller, gradually turning from a lightning whip into an electric snake. It rolled in Tang Jing's hand, trying to escape from Tang Jing's palm. However, there was an invisible force in Tang Jing's palm that firmly imprisoned it. In the air, the god race watched this scene in shock. His full-strength attack was actually completely neutralized by Tang Jing in the blink of an eye, as if it was as easy as blowing off dust. This, he did not know how to describe it. He was also sure of one thing. Tang Jing really became a god and broke through the shackles of human beings. Humans really became gods, not one, but two. What does this mean? The god was shocked and frightened. For thousands of years, no one had taken this step. But Tang Jing did it. Others could definitely do it too. The divine power of the god race would no longer be unbreakable and unattainable. Once more humans became gods, they would no longer be controlled and enslaved by the gods. Instead, they would start a war to slaughter the gods. The fate of the god race would become self-evident. He struggled to control the stormy waves in his heart. When he looked at Tang Jing again, he only felt that he was shining so brightly that he could not look directly at him. Run! Leave this damned place and return to the heavenly realm. Tell everyone this news and start a war to destroy the human world and the world of spirits and souls as soon as possible to eliminate this potential danger. The god race had made a decision to no longer deal with Tang Jing. He rushed into the sky, and his life statue guarded him firmly to prevent Tang Jing from chasing and intercepting him. He's trying to escape. Dizang of Goguryu's eyes lit up as he saw through the god race's plan. He had fought with the god race for so long that he had a certain understanding of the enemy. So, he saw through it at a glance. Tang Jing's momentum soared, and he chased after him. He shouted, "Since you're here, stay. You want to escape and inform the others? Just give up on that idea." His Buddha's eyes Buddha's eyes, and an eyes. The god race clansman raised his head and saw a gigantic palm that seemed to blot out the sky, slapping towards him. Life statue, stop him. The Protoss screamed hysterically. His life idol flew up high and blocked the giant palm. Tang Zheng of the Buddhas of a Buddha's eye. Boom. Buddhas of the gods of the eye. Suddenly, two rays of light collided in midair. It was extremely bright, covering all the colors and light between heaven and earth. Everyone's eyes were only left with these two rays of light. The god race was no exception. He was horrified, and the fear in his heart gradually magnified, completely enveloping his body and mind. He wanted to escape, desperately urging his power. However, under the power of Buddhas of a Buddha's eye, without the protection of his life statue, he was about to be crushed into pieces, unable to move. Crack. A cracking sound came from the body of the life statue. Then, cracks appeared on the heart of the life statue, and quickly spread in all directions. In a flash, cracks had already spread all over the body of the life-bound idol. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, the life-bound idol was torn to pieces, turning into pieces that drifted away. Poof! The god race spat out blood and swayed. His breath gradually weakened, and finally, he fell straight from midair. The power of Buddha's eye was greatly reduced, but the remaining power was not to be underestimated. Taking advantage of the victory, he fell straight down and hit the god race. Boom! The god race and Buddha's eye landed almost at the same time. The ground collapsed, turning into a palm print. No one knew how deep it had sunk, and at a glance, only darkness was left. The others looked at this scene in shock. The power of Buddha's eye was so powerful that even the god race could not resist it. It was much more powerful than the power displayed by Dizang of Goguryeo. Dizang of Goguryeo was unable to calm down. He could not display such a powerful Buddha's eye because he had not crossed the threshold to become a god. One day, I will also become a god. Dizang of Goguryeo's belief was incomparably firm. Tang Zheng landed on the ground and revealed his true form. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva walked over and glanced at the collapsed area. That terrifying remnant might gradually dissipated, but it was still enough to cause one's heart to tremble in fear. Is he dead? Dizang of Goguryeo asked anxiously. Tang Zheng was full of confidence. His life idol has been destroyed, and he was hit by Buddha's eye. It's impossible for him to live even if he wanted to. Dizang of Goguryeo heaved a sigh of relief and chanted Buddha's name. Tang Zheng flipped his palm, his 5 fingers forming a claw, and grabbed at the collapsed area. Whoosh! A person quickly flew up and landed in his palm. The god race was on the verge of death. His body was deformed and many of his bones were broken. There was no part of his body that was intact. He opened his eyes with difficulty and stared at Tang Zheng with murderous eyes. After I die, the god race will definitely avenge me. They will kill you and destroy the human world and the ghost world. Dreams are beautiful, but reality is cruel. I have already become a god, so there's no need to wait for them. I will go to the god world first and see what your world is like. Maybe I can destroy the god world while I'm at it. It will definitely be interesting. The god race's eyes were about to crack. He was about to retort when suddenly his eyes widened and lost their color. There was no life in them. Tang Zheng looked regretful. If I knew you would die so soon, would have searched your brain first. I would have gotten a lot of useful information. Dizang of Goguryeo's mouth twitched. Only Tang Zheng would dare to say that. He did not put the god race in his eyes and even dared to search his brain. You almost destroyed the ghost world, so you will be buried here forever. Tang Zheng flipped his palm and the god race's corpse fell lightly and disappeared into the darkness. Boom, boom, boom. The ground around them shook. A mountain rose from the ground and covered the collapsed area. The god race's corpse was pressed under the mountain and would never see the light of day again. Is this the supernatural power of a god? It's really an eye-opener. Dizang of Goguryeo said with emotion. Dizang of Goguryeo, when you become a god, you will know that this is not difficult. Tang Zheng encouraged. Dizang of Goguryeo said modestly, I don't know when I will be able to break through this hurdle. Hurry up. Because, next, the human world and the ghost world will face a huge threat. This is the real threat of world destruction. Tang Zheng said in a heavy tone. Dizang of Goguryo's heart thumped. Does the god world really want to destroy our world? Yes, the god race is high above, and we can also reach their level. If we threaten their existence and challenge their divine power, then they will not let us go. That fellow has already said very clearly that he will destroy our world, so we can kill all of this. Tang Zheng said with certainty. Chapter 1841. The news of Tang Zheng becoming a god spread like wildfire, almost to the north and south of the river. Countless people prostrated themselves in worship, wanting to see the glory of a god. As for his dojo, it was like bamboo shoots after the rain, rising from the ground. There was no doubt that he had become the god of both the human world and the world of spirits and souls. All beings worshipped him, and no one stopped him. Tang Zheng, however, was not in the mood to enjoy the worship of all beings. After he returned to the human world from the world of spirits and souls, he shut himself in and went straight into seclusion. Other than his family, no one else could see him. There was almost a long line in front of his door. All forces and all kinds of old acquaintances wanted to see him, but they were all turned away, and no one dared to disturb his seclusion. In a secret room, in all directions, an invisible force isolated this space from the outside world, as if it was a new world. He floated in midair, meditating, and his thoughts had drifted to an unknown place. He gradually understood the wonders of the new realm. After he became a god, he seemed to be breaking free from the shackles of his physical body, as if he was about to soar into the sky, as if there was a world constantly calling him. The heavenly realm? Tang Zheng was deep in thought. Following this call, he seemed to be able to reach a certain world. However, he did not rush to the heavenly realm like Yuan Ying's clone. From the words of the Protoss, he had already analyzed a lot of information, and many shocking things. First of all, humans were created by the Protoss, this was beyond doubt. However, the Protoss did not have good intentions. Instead, they treated humans like livestock, just slightly more advanced livestock. They wanted humans to believe in them, worship them, and the continuous power of faith was of great significance to them. Obviously, the Protoss did not only open up the human world and the world of spirits and souls, but also created humans in other worlds, leaving behind relics in many worlds. Perhaps the Protoss had opened up too many worlds and had no time to manage them, so they gradually loosened up, so much so that the Protoss gradually forgot about the human world and the world of spirits and souls. They only enjoyed the continuous power of faith, and did not manage them personally. Unknowingly, there was a deviation between the human world and the world of spirits and souls. Most importantly, there was a variable, Tang Zheng, who had broken through the limits and became a god. This was definitely beyond the Protoss expectations. God, this was the privilege of the god race. No one was allowed to meddle with it, and they were confident that no one could meddle with it. It was precisely this kind of carelessness and negligence that led to such a big change. The god race was completely unaware of it. It was only when Yuan Ying's doppelganger broke into the god world and wreaked havoc there that the god race awoke from their daze. However, the divine clan was still very arrogant. They only sent one divine clan member to the human world and the ghost realm to investigate. Perhaps they thought that the celestial race was enough. All living beings in the human world and the ghost world would worship him when they saw him. They would be willing to do anything for him. Who would have thought that these two worlds would actually want to kill him? In the end, they really killed him. Tang Zheng firmly believed that his analysis was 80 to 90% correct, and the Protoss threat before they died was also real and effective, not just to scare him. Once the Protoss confirmed that there was a problem with their strategy, the human world and the ghost world would overturn their rule and superior position. Then, they would strike like a thunderbolt and destroy these two worlds. Tang Zheng must race against time to fill the gap between the god race and human beings before the god race destroyed the world, so that others would also have a chance to become gods. The more people who became gods, the more they could compete with the god race and protect their homeland. What is the gap between humans and the god race? Why are the god race so confident that humans can't cross this gap and cultivate to become gods? Tang Zheng's brain was spinning rapidly. Thousands of thoughts were running through his mind. His calculation speed was more than 1,000 times faster than before. The god race particularly valued the power of faith. This was the foundation of the god race. They could open up so many worlds and be worshipped by the world. Humans were different. Ordinary people could not be worshipped by the world. Even the strong and ambitious had limited influence, and it was difficult for them to become gods. The heavenly axiom had set up and operated for so many years, but it had not succeeded. One could imagine how difficult it was. It was only by chance that Tang Zheng happened to encounter the crisis of the world's destruction and saved thousands of people from hanging upside down. Only then did he gather the power of faith of the human world and the ghost world to cross this gap and cultivate to become a god. Others could not walk the path of Tang Zheng. Because others could not harvest as much power of faith as Tang Zheng. The power of faith was the key to becoming a god. But if the power of faith was too little, it was useless. So how could one have enough power of faith? No. There was a flash of light in Tang Zheng's mind. It was as if a door had opened in front of him. The light was shining from outside the door, and he instantly thought of something. The god race created several worlds to collect the power of faith. This was understandable. But the key point was that there must be only a few gods in each world, and the god race was definitely not just these few. What about the other gods? What about the newborns? If no one believed in them, then where did their power of faith come from? How could they maintain their identity as a god and have great magical powers? The god race must have a solution. The ancient gods collected the power of faith, and they will definitely find ways to pass on this power of faith, so that all the god race can benefit. This way, they can continue. Ha ha ha, this is really a once and for all solution. The god race is really cunning. Tang Zheng laughed wildly. His laughter echoed in the room. The air shook violently as if boiling water. All living beings in the human world and the world of spirits believe in me. I will collect this power of faith, and then think of a way to pass it on. When others have the power of faith, they can cross this gap and cultivate to become a god. Tang Zheng was ecstatic. He finally found a shortcut to becoming a god, and everyone would agree. Then he could build an army of god slayers. In the future, when he conquered the god realm, the god race would tremble under his hidden sword. If others want to absorb my power of faith, then I must teach them the technique. I must create a new set of techniques. Creating your own magical powers, isn't this starting a sect? He was eager to give it a try and became excited. In fact, this was not as simple as starting a sect. It was really changing the way of heaven and earth. Before this, humans could not become gods. From now on, humans would become gods. Gods fell from the altar to the mortal world. Then, the status of humans would rise and reach an unprecedented peak. He had no distractions and immediately immersed himself in this vast project. This was a magnificent feat that no one had ever done before. He had to be careful, step by step, not allowing the slightest mistake. Once there was a mistake, others would be consigned to eternal damnation when they cultivated, and he would harm countless people. The general outline. He kept sculpting and polishing, and the general outline of the technique gradually took shape. It was like the trunk of a towering tree, supporting the sky and the earth. The rest were the branches and leaves. Only when the branches and leaves were luxuriant would the tree have vitality. He had used up all of his wisdom and gathered all of his power in this technique. This technique was the summary of what he had cultivated. It didn't just absorb the power of faith, but also mixed in his great love for humanity, his understanding of the world, and his understanding of the Tao of heaven and earth. This was the summary of his life, but different people would comprehend different things from it. It was completely different from person to person. Everyone could find the shortcut to becoming a god that they needed, you're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.